The ready room of the USS Enterprise-D existed in that peculiar state of ordered calm that Captain Jean-Luc Picard had cultivated over years of command. Earl Grey tea steaming beside a pad displaying stellar cartography reports, the gentle hum of the warp core thrumming through the deck plates, Shakespeare's complete works resting on the shelf behind him. It was, by all accounts, an ordinary evening in the Beta Quadrant, charting previously unexplored nebulae and conducting long-range sensor sweeps. The universe, in Picard's experience, had a particular talent for disrupting such moments of peace. The disruption began not with alarms or tremors, but with silence. The ambient shipboard sound ceased for precisely 1.3 seconds, the absence of noise so complete that Picard's hand froze halfway to his teacup. Then reality folded. Space itself seemed to twist in the corner of his ready room, a spiraling vortex of emerald and gold light that violated every principle of known physics. Picard was on his feet instantly, hand reaching for his comm badge. But before he could speak, a figure emerged from the impossible rift. Small, barely taller than a human child, with green skin, pointed ears, and ancient eyes that held the weight of centuries. The being wore simple robes and leaned on a gnarled walking stick, regarding Picard with an expression of profound calm despite having just materialized from a tear in space-time. The rift collapsed behind him with a sound like distant thunder, and the ready room's normal acoustic signature resumed. The being's gaze swept the room, taking in the computer terminals, the viewport showing stars streaking past at warp 6, the decorative models of previous ships named Enterprise, and something that might have been satisfaction crossed his weathered features. Unexpected this arrival was, the being said, his voice carrying layers of gravitas that seemed incongruous with his diminutive stature. But perhaps needed. Strong in the Force, this place is not, yet strong in hope, I sense it is. Picard's training took over. First contact protocols demanded patience, observation, and above all, no assumptions. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are aboard a vessel of the United Federation of Planets. He kept his tone measured, diplomatic. May I know who you are and how you came to be in my ready room? The being's ears twitched, amusement perhaps. Master Yoda, I am called, though master of what, in this place? Uncertain I am. He leaned more heavily on his stick, and Picard noticed the device hanging from his belt, a cylindrical object that his instincts suggested was either a tool or a weapon. Meditating I was. Felt a disturbance in the Force, I did. Then, here. The Force. Picard moved slowly toward his desk console, keeping his body language open and non-threatening. I'm not familiar with that term. Is it the phenomenon that brought you here? Surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together, the Force does. Yoda's gaze grew distant, as if perceiving something beyond Picard's senses. But different here, it feels. Muted, changed, as if another galaxy entirely, this is. Before Picard could respond, his comm badge chirped. Bridge to Captain Picard. Commander Riker's voice carried professional concern. Sir, we've detected a massive subspace distortion in your ready room. Are you all right? Picard kept his eyes on Yoda, noting how the being showed no fear, only patient curiosity. I'm fine, number one. It seems we have an unexpected guest. Please have Counselor Troi and Lieutenant Commander Data report to my ready room. And Mr. Worf, Security Protocol Alpha, but no weapons drawn. This appears to be a first contact situation. Understood, Captain. We're also picking up unusual readings from the guest's location. Energy signatures we've never encountered before. Proceed with caution, number one. Picard out. He turned his full attention to Yoda. Forgive the precautions, Master Yoda, but the sudden appearance of an unknown individual aboard a starship requires certain protocols. I hope you understand." "Wise. Such caution is," Yoda replied, lowering himself into one of the ready room chairs with a small grunt. His feet barely touched the floor. "Trust one must earn. This I understand well." The doors hissed open, admitting Commander William Riker, Lieutenant Commander Data, and Counselor Deanna Troi. Lieutenant Worf lingered in the doorway, his Klingon features set in professional alertness. Troy's eyes widened the moment she saw Yoda, her hand moving unconsciously to her chest. "Captain," she said softly, "I'm sensing. It's extraordinary. Such depth of emotion controlled with perfect discipline. Sadness, wisdom, determination, and something else. A connection to something I can't quite define. He's not hostile." Data's golden eyes fixed on Yoda with open fascination. "Captain, the entity's bio-readings are unlike anything in our xenobiology database. Cellular structure suggests extreme longevity, possibly 8 to 9 centuries based on telomere degradation patterns. However, his neural activity is remarkable. Synaptic pathways show activity levels consistent with active meditation or psionic discipline." Psionic. Riker stepped forward, his expression mixing curiosity with command readiness. "Like Betazoid telepathy?" "Similar but distinct, Commander." Data tilted his head in that uniquely android gesture of analysis. "The energy patterns surrounding Master Yoda interface with subspace in ways I cannot fully explain with current sensor data. It is as if he is somehow connected to the quantum field underlying normal space." Yoda's eyes crinkled with what might have been approval. "Perceptive. Your machine friend is, though not a machine, truly, I sense. Alive, in ways beyond circuits and data, you are." Data's expression, as much as an android could express surprise, shifted. "You perceive my consciousness, Master Yoda?" "Feel it, I do. Different from organic life, yes, but awareness you possess. Questions about your existence you have. Purpose you seek." Yoda's gaze held Data's with profound understanding. "The Force reveals such things. All living things. It connects." Picard exchanged glances with his senior staff. In one brief exchange, this being had demonstrated abilities that suggested both advanced psionic capability and philosophical depth. "Master Yoda, I believe we have much to discuss. The Federation, the government to which this ship belongs, is dedicated to peaceful exploration and the exchange of knowledge. If you're willing, I'd like to understand more about you, your people, and this force you describe. In return, we'll do everything we can to help you return to your home." "Return." Yoda's expression grew contemplative. "A long journey, that may be. Galaxies apart we are, I think. But opportunities, unexpected arrivals create. Learn from each other. Perhaps we can. The Force works in mysterious ways, always in motion. The future is. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. To boldly go where no one has gone before." Picard gestured to the seating area. "Then perhaps we should begin with understanding. You've traveled further than any being in our records, Master Yoda. Your perspective on what brought you here could expand our understanding of the universe itself." As his senior staff arranged themselves around the small alien master, Picard felt that familiar sensation, the one that preceded every significant discovery of his career. They stood on the threshold of something unprecedented. A teacher from another galaxy, speaking of energy fields that bound life itself, had arrived in his ready room through a tear in reality. The Federation's mission had always been to seek out new life and new civilizations. This, Picard suspected, would redefine both concepts entirely. The observation lounge had become an impromptu first contact chamber, its its long windows offering a view of stars streaking past at warp velocity, while the senior staff arranged themselves around the conference table. Yoda sat in a chair that Dr. Crusher had hastily modified with cushions, bringing him to a more comfortable height, though his feet still dangled above the deck. The Jedi Master's demeanor remained serene, his three-fingered hands resting on his walking stick, with the patience of someone who had weathered 9 centuries of galactic upheaval. Picard took his customary seat at the head of the table, flanked by Riker and Data. Troi sat closest to Yoda, her empathic senses fully engaged, while LaForge had joined them with a tricorder, taking periodic scans with visible fascination. Worf stood near the door, a compromise between security protocol and diplomatic courtesy. "Master Yoda," Picard began, his tone carrying the measured curiosity that defined his approach to first contact. "You mentioned that you believe we're in a different galaxy from your own. What leads you to that conclusion?" Yoda's ears twitched, and he gestured with one small hand toward the viewport. "The Force, Captain. Like a great ocean, it is. Every living thing, a current within it. Every world, a pattern I have learned over many years." His ancient eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "But here, the patterns, unfamiliar they are. The currents, they flow differently. New constellations, yes, but more than that. The very fabric of life feels other." Data leaned forward, his expression intent. "Fascinating. You describe the Force as if it were a measurable phenomenon, yet our sensors detect nothing analogous in our scientific databases. However," he tapped his console, bringing up a display of subspace readings. "When you materialized in the captain's ready room, we detected a brief quantum fluctuation in what we call subspace, a domain beneath normal space-time where faster-than-light travel becomes possible. The energy signature was unlike anything in Starfleet records." "Subspace," Yoda repeated, testing the word. "A new name for an old truth, perhaps. The Force exists in all things, through all things, beyond sight, beyond simple measurement. But real it is, as real as your ship, your technology, your very thoughts." LaForge adjusted his visor, his head tilting as he studied the tricorder readings. "Captain, I'm picking up what I can only describe as a localized distortion field around Master Yoda. It's interactive, responding to his neural activity. When he concentrates, the field intensifies. When he relaxes, it dissipates, but never fully disappears. It's like nothing I've ever seen." "Can you demonstrate this ability, Master Yoda?" Picard asked carefully. "If you're comfortable doing so." Without a word, Yoda extended his hand toward a pad resting on the far end of the conference table. His eyes half closed in concentration, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the pad trembled, lifted slowly from the table's surface, and floated through the air with perfect control. It drifted the length of the table before settling gently in front of Picard. The entire senior staff watched in stunned silence. "Telekinesis," Troi breathed. "But I can feel it. It's not just moving the object. He's connecting with it, sensing its mass, its composition, every molecule. It's beautiful." Worf's hand had moved instinctively toward his phaser, but he kept it holstered. "This Force grants considerable power," he rumbled. "In the wrong hands, it could be dangerous." "Dangerous. All power is," Yoda agreed, lowering his hand. The calm in his voice carried the weight of hard experience. "Why the Jedi existed, to serve and protect, not to rule. A weapon the Force is not, though weaponized it can be. A tool for understanding, for protecting life, it should be. Many who sought power fell to darkness. Saw this, I have. Many times." Riker exchanged a glance with Picard. "You speak of the Jedi in past tense. Were you part of an organization?" A profound sadness crossed Yoda's features, deepening the lines already etched into his ancient face. The Jedi Order. For over 1,000 generations, guardians of peace and justice in the Galactic Republic, we were. Trained Force-sensitive beings. We did. Mediated disputes, protected the innocent, stood against darkness. He paused and the silence stretched. All gone now. Fallen to betrayal and war. Failed, we did. The weight in his words resonated through the observation lounge. Picard recognized that particular quality of grief, the kind that came from witnessing the collapse of everything one had worked to build. He had felt it himself, briefly, during his assimilation by the Borg. "I'm deeply sorry," Picard said quietly. "The loss of an entire civilization is... I cannot imagine carrying such knowledge." "Survived, some did," Yoda continued, his voice soft but steady. "Hope remains, while life remains. But here, in this place, perhaps the Force has brought me here for a reason. Always in motion, the future is. Many paths it shows, many possibilities." Data's expression brightened with intellectual curiosity. "Master Yoda, you mentioned feeling the Force as a connective field between living things. In our understanding of physics, there are 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Are you suggesting a 5th fundamental force exists, one that specifically interacts with biological consciousness?" Yoda's eyes gleamed with approval. "Questions," the young one asks. "Good questions. The Force, tied to life it is, yes, but more than biology. Intention, thought, emotion, these shape it, flow through it. Midichlorians, microscopic beings in all living cells, allow beings to sense and use the Force. But the Force itself, greater than any single explanation, it is." LaForge whistled softly. "Microscopic symbiotic organisms that interface with consciousness. That's incredible. Dr. Crusher would have a field day studying that. With your permission, of course." "Study, you may," Yoda agreed. "Knowledge shared enriches all. This, the Jedi always believed." Troi leaned forward, her dark eyes intent. "Master Yoda, I have to ask. I can sense your emotions, but your control is extraordinary. You're carrying immense grief, yet you remain centered. How?" 900 years, Counselor. Teach much they do." Yoda's expression softened. "Emotion, the Jedi do not deny. Acknowledge it, we must. But ruled by it? No. Peace we seek. The Force flows through all things. Anger, fear, hatred, these lead to suffering, to darkness. Name the dark side, we call it. Felt its pull, every Jedi has. Resisted it, we must." Picard found himself leaning forward, engaged in a way he rarely felt during standard first contact protocols. "Your philosophy sounds remarkably similar to Vulcan teachings, the control of emotion through logic and discipline." "Met these Vulcans I have not," Yoda mused, "but learn from them I would welcome. Different paths to similar truths many cultures find. Balance the goal is, not suppression, but understanding. The Force teaches this." Riker cleared his throat. "Master Yoda, I don't mean to be indelicate, but that device on your belt, we've been scanning it, and it appears to be some kind of weapon. A highly sophisticated one, generating a containment field around a plasma core." Yoda's hand moved to the lightsaber, his touch reverent. "A Jedi's weapon this is. A lightsaber. Elegant weapon, for a more civilized age. But a weapon still, yes. Use it only in defense, a Jedi must. Life, we protect. Death, we do not celebrate." "May I see it?" Data asked, his curiosity evident. With slow deliberation, Yoda unhooked the lightsaber from his belt and placed it on the table. Activate it not, unless understand its danger, you do. Pure energy, contained by magnetic fields. Through almost anything, it cuts. Data picked up the weapon with careful precision, his sensors analyzing every component. Remarkable. The power cell is incredibly dense, a sustained plasma beam contained within a force field architecture. The engineering is elegant. How is the blade's length regulated? Focusing crystals, internal mechanisms. Each Jedi builds their own saber. Part of training it is. Connect with the weapon, one must. Extension of oneself, it becomes. Worf rumbled appreciatively. A warrior's weapon. You have combat training. Trained for 800 years, I have. Despite his small stature and advanced age, something in Yoda's tone suggested vast capability. Hope to never fight again, I do. But defend the innocent, I will. Always. Picard studied the ancient being before him. This Master Yoda, who spoke in riddles yet conveyed profound truths, who wielded powers that defied Federation science, yet approached them with humility and wisdom. The Prime Directive technically didn't apply here. Yoda clearly came from a civilization far more advanced in certain areas than the Federation. But the principles underlying it, respect, non-interference, mutual understanding, felt more relevant than ever. Master Yoda, Picard said, the Federation was founded on principles of peaceful coexistence, scientific discovery, and infinite diversity in infinite combinations. We believe that by learning from one another, all species can grow. Your presence here, however it came about, represents an unprecedented opportunity. We would be honored if you would remain aboard the Enterprise as our guest while we attempt to understand what brought you here and how we might return you home. In exchange, we offer you our full hospitality and protection. Yoda closed his eyes for a long moment, as if consulting something beyond normal perception. When he opened them, resolution shone there. Generous, your offer is, Captain. Accept it, I do. Much to learn we both have. The Force has guided me here. Trust in it, I must. Trust in you, I sense I can. Then welcome aboard, Master Yoda, Picard said, allowing himself a small smile. I suspect your presence will challenge everything we think we know about consciousness, energy, and the nature of life itself. For an organization dedicated to exploration, I can think of no greater gift. As the senior staff began discussing accommodations and research protocols, Picard caught Riker's eye. His first officer's expression mirrored his own thoughts. They had just welcomed aboard perhaps the most significant discovery in Federation history, a being who claimed that all life was connected by an invisible force, who could manipulate matter with thought alone, and who carried the wisdom of watching civilizations rise and fall. The implications were staggering, and somewhere in the back of Picard's mind, a question formed. If beings like Yoda existed in another galaxy, what else might be possible in their own? The Enterprise's primary science lab had been transformed into an impromptu research center, with workstations arranged in a semicircle around a central diagnostic platform, where Yoda sat cross-legged, his diminutive form barely filling the examination area. Dr. Beverly Crusher moved around him with practiced efficiency, running medical scans while trying to mask her fascination. Data stood at the main console, correlating incoming sensor data with LaForge, while Counselor Troi observed from a respectful distance, monitoring the emotional undercurrents of what had become the most extraordinary scientific investigation in recent Starfleet history. His physiology is remarkable, Crusher said, reviewing the biobed readouts with evident amazement. Cellular regeneration rates that suggest extreme longevity, neural pathways that are orders of magnitude more complex than human baseline, and these microscopic organisms he mentioned, midichlorians are present in concentrations I've never encountered. They exist in a symbiotic relationship with every cell in his body. Data's fingers flew across his console. The midichlorians appear to interface directly with the quantum fluctuations we detected earlier. When Master Yoda concentrates, the microscopic organisms generate a measurable field effect that extends beyond his physical form. It is as if they are translating biological intention into physical force. The Force, LaForge murmured, adjusting his visor to filter through multiple spectrums simultaneously. I'm reading it now, a field that shouldn't exist according to conventional physics. It's interactive, responsive to thought and emotion. When Master Yoda meditates, the field stabilizes into coherent patterns. When he focuses on a specific object, he gestured to a medical tricorder floating in midair near Yoda. The field becomes directional, exerting measurable pressure. Yoda opened one eye, regarding the floating tricorder with mild amusement. Surprised, you seem. Yet your own bodies generate electrical fields they do. Thoughts, measurable as neural impulses they are. Why then, so strange that life itself generates a field? The Force, simply life at its most fundamental. It is. Crusher approached with a hypospray. Master Yoda, I'd like to take a sample of your blood for more detailed analysis. With your permission, of course. Granted, Doctor. Secrets I have none. Learn what you will. As Crusher extracted the sample, Troi stepped closer. Her empathic senses fully engaged. Master Yoda, when I focus on you, I sense something beyond normal emotional resonance. It's like standing near a vast ocean. There's depth there that extends far beyond what I normally perceive. Is that the Force? Sense it, you can. Yoda's expression brightened with genuine interest. Strong in the Force, your people may be, Counselor. Empathy, a form of Force sensitivity it is. Feel others' emotions without the Force, one cannot. Betazoid you said you are. Half Betazoid, Troi confirmed. My mother is a full telepath. We've always understood our abilities as a natural evolution of our species, a biological adaptation that allows us to sense the emotions and sometimes thoughts of others. And so it is, Yoda agreed. But what drives such evolution? What allows consciousness to touch consciousness? The Force, the answer is. Different names, different understandings, but the same truth. All life connected it is. Data tilted his head in that characteristic gesture of processing. Master Yoda, your statement raises a fascinating question. If the Force connects all living things, and my positronic brain allows me to achieve consciousness despite my artificial nature, does that mean I am also connected to this Force? The question hung in the air, and every person in the science lab turned to face Yoda. It was the question that had defined Data's existence since his activation. What was the nature of his consciousness, and did it qualify as truly alive? Yoda's gaze settled on Data with profound attention, and the ancient Jedi Master slowly stood, approaching the android. Close your eyes, Data. Clear your processors of extraneous calculations. Focus only on this moment. Data complied, his golden eyes shuddering. Yoda raised one small hand, holding it near Data's chest without touching. The science lab fell silent except for the ambient hum of equipment. Long seconds passed. Feel you in the Force. I do, Yoda said softly, wonder coloring his ancient voice. Different? Yes. Not biological, your consciousness is, but consciousness nonetheless. Awareness, thought, choice, these you possess. The Force, it recognizes you. Alive you are, Data. In ways perhaps your creators never intended, but alive nonetheless. Data's eyes opened, and if an android could experience emotion, Something very much like joy flickered across his features. I have sought confirmation of my consciousness for my entire existence. Sentience hearings, philosophical debates, countless self-examinations. Yet in one moment, you provide an answer I have been unable to find. The Force, it does not lie. Life, it recognizes in all its forms. Your spark, different it may be, but bright it shines. Crusher looked up from her microscope, where she had been examining the blood sample. Captain Picard needs to see this. She tapped her comm badge. Crusher to Captain Picard. Please report to Science Lab 1. We've discovered something extraordinary. Minutes later, Picard entered with Riker at his side, both men immediately sensing the charged atmosphere in the lab. Report, Doctor. Crusher gestured to the microscopic display she had transferred to the main view screen. Captain, these are Master Yoda's midichlorians, the organisms he described. They're unlike anything in our xenobiology database. They exist in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously acting as biological entities and as conduits for a form of energy we've never detected before. The Force made visible, Yoda commented from his position near data. LaForge took over, pulling up sensor data. Captain, once we knew what to look for, we started scanning the entire ship. Everyone aboard the Enterprise has these organisms, humans, betazoids, even the bacterial cultures in our hydroponics bay. They're everywhere, in every living cell. Riker's eyebrows shot up. We've all had midichlorians this whole time. In low concentrations, Crusher clarified. Master Yoda's midichlorian count is approximately 20,000 per cell. Most of the crew registers between 2,000 and 3,000. Counselor Troi is notably higher, around 7,000 per cell. Which explains much, Yoda said, nodding to Troi. Sensitive to the Force, you are, Counselor. Trained as a Jedi, you could be. Feel the emotions of others through the Force. You already do. Expand such abilities. Training could. Troi's eyes widened. I could learn to do what you do. Move objects. Sense events before they happen. Possible, it is. Time and discipline such training requires. But potential you have. Picard absorbed this information, his mind racing through the implications. Master Yoda, you're suggesting that this force, this energy field, exists throughout our galaxy, connects all life, and that some individuals can consciously access and manipulate it. Suggesting? No, Captain. Stating fact I am. Always existed, the Force has. Known about it. Your people have not. But ignorance does not make it less real. The revelation had prompted Captain Picard to call a formal briefing in the observation lounge, this time with an expanded roster, including Chief O'Brien from Transporter Room 3 and Ensign Ro Lauren from Con. The implications of Yoda's presence and the Force itself demanded input from multiple perspectives. Picard stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching the stars stream past. What we're discussing, he began, turning to face his assembled crew, is nothing less than a fundamental revision of our understanding of life, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. Master Yoda has introduced us to a phenomenon that, if verified, could revolutionize Federation science. If verified? Yoda's ears twitched. Demonstrated it, I have. Measured it, your instruments have. What more verification is needed? The scientific method requires reproducibility, Data explained gently. A single example, no matter how compelling, must be tested against multiple observations, peer-reviewed, and integrated into our existing theoretical frameworks. Much like the Jedi Council, scientists are. Question everything, they do. Good, this is. But time, sometimes truth, does not wait for consensus. LaForge leaned forward, his visor glinting in the lounge's lighting. Master Yoda, I've been thinking about the practical applications. If the Force connects all living things and can be manipulated through concentration and training, could it be used to enhance our technology, our sensor arrays, our medical treatments, even our warp drive? Technology, the Force is not, Yoda cautioned. A tool to be controlled and programmed, it is not. Living entity, it is. Respect it demands. Use it carelessly, and dark side you court. Worf rumbled from his position near the wall. You mentioned a dark side earlier. Explain this concept. Yoda's expression grew grave, centuries of painful experience written in the lines of his face. The Force, two aspects it has. The light, peace, knowledge, serenity, defense. The dark, anger, fear, aggression, domination. Easy the dark side is. Quicker, more seductive. Use it for power, for control, many do. Corrupts absolutely, it does. Consumes those who embrace it. Like an addiction, Crusher observed. The brain's reward system hijacked by a destructive pattern. Apt comparison, Doctor. Seen many Jedi fall, I have. Begin with good intentions, they do. But power, it intoxicates. Justify anything, they come to. Lost to darkness, they become. Sith, we call them, dark side Force users who seek dominion over others. Picard felt a chill run down his spine. He had encountered beings of immense power before. Q, the Daud, the Organians. Each encounter had reinforced his belief that power without ethics led inevitably to tyranny. Master Yoda, the Federation has a guiding principle, the Prime Directive. It forbids us from interfering in the natural development of less advanced civilizations. It exists precisely because we understand that power, even well-intentioned power, can corrupt and destroy. Your warnings about the dark side resonate deeply with our philosophy. Wise, such a directive is. The Jedi, similar code we had. Intervene only when necessary, harm none if possible. Respect all life, but flexible. We were forced to become. War came. Compromise required, it demanded. Slippery slope, such compromise becomes. Yoda's voice dropped to barely a whisper. How I failed, that is. Saw the darkness coming, I did not. Trusted when suspicion was warranted, rigid when adaptation was needed. The raw pain in those words silenced the room. Counselor Troi's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her empathic abilities making her feel the full weight of Yoda's regret. Riker cleared his throat gently. Master Yoda, you said you trained Jedi for 800 years. What does that training entail? Yoda seemed to pull himself back from painful memories. Physical discipline, control of one's body, combat training for defense, mental discipline, meditation, emotional control, clarity of thought, spiritual discipline, connection to the Force, understanding of one's place in the great pattern. Years such training takes, decades for most. Rush it you cannot. Disaster, rushed training brings. Counselor Troi has significant Force sensitivity, Data noted. Would you be willing to provide instruction during your time aboard the Enterprise? Yoda regarded Troi thoughtfully. Old I am, set in my ways. Train children, traditionally the Jedi did. Begin too late, dangerous it can be. Strong emotions, difficult to master when ingrained they are. I'm not asking to become a warrior, Troi said softly. But if this Force is real, if it connects all life, then understanding it better could make me a better counselor. Help me help others. Noble reason, that is. Yoda's expression softened. Some instruction I can provide. But full Jedi training, not possible in short time. Basic meditation, Force sensing, emotional discipline. These I can teach. Chief O'Brien spoke up for the first time, his Irish accent carrying a note of practical concern. "Master Yoda, I transported you from the captain's ready room to sickbay earlier. The transporter had trouble getting a clean lock on you. The pattern buffer kept fluctuating. Is that because of this force field around you?" "Interesting," Yoda mused. "Your transporter breaks matter into energy, reassembles it elsewhere, yes? Disrupts natural pattern, it must. The Force resists such disruption. Living beings meant to be whole they are. Break them apart, against nature it is." O'Brien and LaForge exchanged concerned glances. "We use the transporter dozens of times a day," O'Brien said. "Are you saying it's unnatural?" "Unnatural. Perhaps wrong word. Concerning?" "Yes. Separate spirit from body, even briefly, consequences it may have. Force users, especially vulnerable they might be. Feel the disconnection, they would. Disturbing, it is." Picard filed that concern away for future consideration. The transporter had always raised philosophical questions about identity and consciousness. Questions that Thomas Riker's duplicate existence had made painfully relevant. But Yoda's perspective added a new dimension to that debate. "Master Yoda," Picard said, "you mentioned that you were meditating when you arrived here. Can you describe what happened from your perspective?" Yoda closed his eyes, remembering. "On Dagobah, I was. Swamp world, remote, hidden from the Empire. Meditating on the Force, seeking guidance. Felt a disturbance, I did. A ripple, a tear. Powerful, curious, testing, an intelligence behind it. Before react I could, pulled through I was, like falling through space itself. Then, your ready room. An intelligence," Riker leaned forward. "Someone deliberately brought you here?" "Uncertain I am. Felt deliberate, it did. But purpose? Unknown. The Force, mysterious it remains. Show the future, it can. Show many futures, actually. Always in motion, the future is. Possible that here, I was meant to be." Data's eyes lit up with sudden realization. "Captain, the energy signature from the subspace rift that brought Master Yoda. I have seen similar readings once before. When Q first appeared on the Enterprise, the quantum fluctuations, the reality distortion patterns. They are not identical, but they share certain characteristics." The name sent a collective shiver through the senior staff. Q, the omnipotent being from the Q continuum who had appointed himself humanity's judge, test administrator, and occasional savior. His interventions were always theatrical, often dangerous, and invariably designed to teach lessons that only became clear in retrospect. "Q," Picard said flatly. "You think Q brought Master Yoda here?" "It would be consistent with his methodology," Data observed. "Introducing unexpected elements to test human, and by extension, Federation, responses. Challenging our assumptions about reality and consciousness." Yoda's ears perked up with interest. "This Q, powerful being he is." "Omnipotent, near as we can determine," Riker said. "He can manipulate time, space, reality itself. He's put the Enterprise in danger multiple times, all in the name of testing whether humanity deserves to exist or explore the galaxy. Fascinating. Meet this Q, I would like to." Picard felt a headache beginning to form behind his temples. "Master Yoda, I strongly advise caution regarding Q. His interventions are unpredictable and often perilous. Dangerous beings. In my galaxy many I have met. Survived them I have. Perhaps this Q and I, understanding could reach." Before Picard could respond, the red alert klaxon blared throughout the ship. Worf's console chirped urgently, and the Klingon security chief moved swiftly to the wall panel. "Captain, sensors detect a massive spatial distortion off the port bow, similar to the anomaly that brought Master Yoda aboard." "On screen," Picard ordered. and the view screen dominated the observation lounge's forward wall. What appeared before them defied easy description. Space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a spiraling vortex of impossible colors, colors that hurt to perceive, that suggested dimensions beyond normal human comprehension. Energy crackled along the edges of the distortion, and sensor readings scrolled across the bottom of the screen in patterns that made no scientific sense. And at the center of the vortex, a figure began to materialize. Humanoid, dressed in what appeared to be a Starfleet uniform from the 21st century, but with an aura of power that made reality itself seem to bend around him. As he fully manifested, his expression was one of theatrical delight. "Ah, mon capitaine." Q spread his arms wide, his voice carrying that familiar mix of condescension and genuine curiosity. "I see you've met my little gift. Do you like him? I thought you could use a challenge. Someone who actually understands the nature of existence beyond your limited, plodding, scientific methodology." Yoda's eyes opened fully, and for the first time since arriving aboard the Enterprise, his expression showed complete recognition. "Felt you, I did. Pulled me here, you did. Powerful you are. But why?" Q's smile widened, and his eyes sparkled with mischief and something deeper, genuine interest. "Why? Because, my diminutive green friend, I wanted to see what would happen when I introduced a true master of cosmic awareness to the most self-righteous, sanctimonious, yet surprisingly noble collection of evolved primates in this timeline. Besides," Q's expression turned almost serious. "You've been meditating on that swamp world for far too long. Even Force users need a vacation. And Picard here, well, he's due for a proper test. One that doesn't involve Borg or Romulans or other tediously predictable threats." Picard rose to his feet, his voice carrying the steel of command. "Q, return Master Yoda to his home immediately. Whatever game you're playing, game." Q's expression shifted to mock offense. "Jean-Luc, I'm hurt. This isn't a game. This is an experiment, an opportunity, a chance for your precious Federation to learn something that all your vaunted science has missed for centuries. That consciousness, life, and existence itself are far more extraordinary than you've ever imagined." He turned to Yoda, his demeanor shifting to something approaching respect. "Tell me, Master Jedi, can you sense what I am?" Yoda studied Q with the intensity of someone peering beyond mere physical reality. His eyes narrowed, and when he spoke, his voice carried a note of awe. "Beyond the Force, you exist, part of it, yet above it. Time, space, reality itself, toys to you they are. Dangerous you are, but not evil. Curious, testing, seeking meaning. Lonely, perhaps." For the first time in Picard's experience, Q looked genuinely surprised. Then slowly he began to laugh, not his usual mocking laughter, but something more genuine. "Oh, this is going to be delightful. An entity that can actually perceive the Q continuum's nature without technological assistance or my explicit permission. Master Yoda, you and I are going to have such interesting conversations." Picard stepped between them, his jaw set. "Q, enough. If you brought Master Yoda here, then you can return him. We will not be part of another one of your tests." "Can't return him," Q said cheerfully. "Well, I could, but I won't. Because, mon capitaine, the real test hasn't even begun. Master Yoda's arrival has already started a chain reaction. The Force, that delightful energy field he's so connected to, exists in your galaxy too. Has existed all along. You've just been too blind to see it. Now that someone who can use it properly is here, drawing on it, amplifying it. Other Force sensitives across the Alpha Quadrant are starting to wake up. Betazoids are going to start moving objects with their minds. Vulcans are going to discover that their vaunted logic has been suppressing something far more powerful. The Romulans, Well, they're going to be very interested in weaponizing this new development. Yoda's expression turned grave. Irresponsible such revelation is. Unprepared these people are. Training, discipline, understanding. Without these, chaos the Force can bring. Exactly. Q clapped his hands together. Which is why you're here, Master Yoda. To teach, to guide, to help the Federation understand what they've been missing. And to help me answer a question that has bothered the Q continuum for eons. Can consciousness evolve beyond its limitations? Can species learn to touch the fundamental forces of existence and not destroy themselves? He turned to Picard, and for once, his expression was completely serious. This is the test, Jean-Luc. Not of your combat ability, not of your tactical genius, but of your civilization's wisdom. The Force is awakening in your galaxy. How you respond to it, how you integrate it into your understanding of life and consciousness, will determine whether the Federation survives the next century. With a flash of light, Q vanished, leaving behind only the echo of his voice. Good luck, Picard. You're going to need it. The observation lounge fell into stunned silence. Slowly, every eye turned to Yoda, who sat with his head bowed, hands folded on his walking stick. Finally, Picard spoke, his voice carefully controlled. Master Yoda, it seems your stay with us has become considerably more complicated. Yoda raised his head, and despite the gravity of Q's revelation, a small smile played at the corners of his mouth. Complicated. All things become when Q involved, I sense. But opportunity, also it presents. Right, he is about one thing. Awaken. The Force in your galaxy will. Ready or not, change has come. Guide it, we must. Or chaos surely will follow. Picard moved to the viewport, staring out at the stars. Behind him, his senior staff awaited orders. Beside him, a 900-year-old Jedi Master prepared to teach an entire civilization about an aspect of existence they had never known existed. The Enterprise's mission was to seek out new life and new civilizations. But what happened when new life existed within every living cell? What happened when consciousness itself was revealed to be part of a universal field that connected all beings? Number 1, Picard said quietly. Prepare the crew for a paradigm shift and contact Starfleet Command. They need to know that everything we understand about life, consciousness, and the nature of existence is about to change. As the senior staff dispersed to their duties, Yoda remained in the observation lounge. His gaze distant. He was feeling through the Force, sensing the ripples spreading through this strange new galaxy. Q had spoken true. Beings with latent Force sensitivity were indeed beginning to awaken. And without training, without discipline, without understanding, they would be vulnerable to the dark side. The Jedi Order was gone. But its teachings, its wisdom, its warning about the seductive nature of power, these needed to survive. These needed to be shared. A new task stretched before him. Perhaps the Force had brought him here not by accident, but by design, not to return home, but to plant seeds of wisdom in fertile new ground. Begin again, I must, Yoda whispered to himself. Teach once more. One more generation. Last gift to the Force. This can be. The future, as always, remained in motion. The request from Ambassador Sarek of Vulcan arrived within 18 hours of Starfleet Command's notification about the Force phenomenon, as it was being officially termed in preliminary reports. The message was characteristically Vulcan, brief, logical, and carrying the weight of profound interest beneath its emotionless delivery. Sarek wished to meet with Master Yoda to engage in philosophical discourse regarding the nature of consciousness, emotion, and the methods by which both Vulcans and Jedi achieved mental discipline. Picard stood in the transporter room, hands clasped behind his back as Chief O'Brien worked the controls. Ambassador Sarek materializing now, Captain. The transporter beam coalesced into the distinguished form of Sarek, Spock's father, one of the Federation's most accomplished diplomats, and a Vulcan whose mental discipline was legendary even among his own people. He wore traditional Vulcan robes, his gray hair swept back from a face that revealed nothing, yet somehow conveyed the weight of profound intellect. At 203 years old, Sarek represented the pinnacle of Vulcan philosophy and logic. Ambassador Sarek, Picard greeted him with a respectful nod. Welcome aboard the Enterprise. I trust your journey was pleasant. Captain Picard. Sarek's voice was measured, controlled. I do not concern myself with pleasantness, but the journey was efficient. I am here to meet the entity called Master Yoda and to determine the veracity of Starfleet's extraordinary claims regarding this Force phenomenon. Master Yoda is in Observation Lounge 3. He's been expecting you. Picard gestured toward the corridor. I should mention, Ambassador, Master Yoda's communication style is unconventional. He speaks with inverted syntax and often in what might seem like riddles, but I assure you, his insights are profound. I do not require warnings about communication styles, Captain. Logic transcends linguistic patterns. Sarek's tone carried the faintest edge that might have been offense in a human, but in a Vulcan signaled merely statement of fact. They entered the observation lounge to find Yoda seated in his modified chair, hands resting on his walking stick, his eyes closed in meditation. Counselor Troi sat nearby, also in a meditative posture, though her face showed concentration rather than the serene calm that Yoda exhibited. Data stood at a console, monitoring sensor readings. While LaForge made minute adjustments to a specialized scanning array he'd positioned near the meditation area. Yoda's eyes opened as Sarek entered, and something very much like recognition sparked in those ancient depths. Ambassador Sarek, strong in the Force you are. Feel your mind, I can. Disciplined, ordered, vast. Impressive, such control is. Sarek's right eyebrow rose a millimeter, a significant display of surprise by Vulcan standards. You claim to sense my mental state without telepathic contact or mind meld. Claim? No. Simply do. I do. Yoda gestured to an empty chair. Sit, Ambassador. Much to discuss we have. Your people and mine, different paths to similar truths we have taken. Sarek moved to the indicated chair with characteristic Vulcan grace, settling into it with perfect posture. I have reviewed Starfleet's preliminary reports regarding your abilities and this force you describe. The concept of a universal energy field connecting all consciousness is intriguing. However, Vulcan science has detected no such phenomenon in our extensive research into psionic abilities. Look for it, you did not, Yoda replied gently. Suppress emotion, your people do. Suppress also connection to Force, this does. Feel it still, you do. How else telepathy works? But acknowledge it not. Name it not. Control it, yes. But understand it? No. Troi opened her eyes, her expression thoughtful. Master Yoda has been teaching me basic Force meditation. It's similar to Betazoid mental exercises, but there's a fundamental difference. Where my people reach outward to sense emotions, Force meditation seems to connect inward first, finding one's own center in the universal field, then expanding awareness from there. Correct, young one, Yoda confirmed with approval. The Force flows through all things. Begin with self. You must understand your own connection, then feel others' connections. Vulcans, this process they reverse. Push down emotion, reach out logically. Works, it does, but incomplete understanding it gives. Sarek's eyes narrowed fractionally. You suggest that Vulcan mental discipline is flawed? Flawed? No. Incomplete? Perhaps. Different, certainly. Yoda leaned forward on his stick. Tell me, Ambassador, why suppress emotion? What purpose does it serve? Emotion is illogical, Sarek stated with absolute certainty. It clouds judgment, prevents rational decision-making, and historically led my people to nearly destroy ourselves in savage warfare. The time of awakening, when Surak taught us to embrace logic and reject emotion, saved Vulcan civilization. Savage warfare, yes. Felt such pain through the Force, I have. Your people's anguish echoes it left. Yoda's expression turned somber. But emotion itself, the enemy it is not. Uncontrolled emotion, unchecked passion, these bring suffering, but emotion denied. This too, suffering brings. Different kind, but suffering nonetheless. Data interjected from his console, his tone carrying genuine curiosity. Master Yoda, Ambassador Sarek represents a philosophy that has served Vulcan civilization for over 1,800 years. Logic has allowed Vulcans to achieve remarkable scientific advances, maintain internal peace, and become founding members of the Federation. By what measure do you suggest their approach is incomplete? By measure of the Force, Yoda replied simply. Vulcans, powerful in Force. Potential they are. Higher midichlorian counts than humans, many possess. Telepathic abilities, proof of Force connection they are. But wall between emotion and logic blocks full access to Force it does. Limit themselves, Vulcans do, even as they excel. Sarek's fingers steepled before him in a gesture of contemplation. You claim that Vulcan telepathic abilities are manifestations of this Force. Claim not. State fact, I do. The Force enables all psionic phenomena. Betazoid empathy, Vulcan mind melds, even your human friend Data's consciousness, all connected to Force, all part of great pattern. That is a significant assertion requiring substantial evidence. Evidence I can provide. Yoda closed his eyes, and the temperature in the observation lounge seemed to shift subtly. LaForge's console began registering increased readings. The quantum field they'd identified as Force energy was intensifying. Feel it, Ambassador. Not with logic, not with suppressed emotion. Simply feel. Open your mind to what always been there has. For a long moment, Sarek remained perfectly still, his Vulcan features revealing nothing. But Troi gasped softly, her empathic senses detecting something extraordinary. Captain, I'm sensing... Ambassador Sarek is experiencing something. Surprise, wonder, and something he's trying very hard to control. It's like he's perceiving something for the first time. Sarek's eyes opened, and for the first time in Picard's acquaintance with the distinguished ambassador. The Vulcan looked genuinely shaken, though only someone familiar with Vulcan micro-expressions would notice the slight tension in his jaw, the fractional widening of his eyes. Fascinating, Sarek whispered. I perceive a field, a connection. It extends from my consciousness to yours, Master Yoda, to every living being in this room, throughout the ship, beyond. It is... He paused, searching for words. It is as if I have been perceiving reality through a narrow spectrum, and you have just revealed additional wavelengths I was incapable of sensing. Or unwilling to sense, Yoda suggested gently. Suppress emotion long enough. Suppress also awareness of Force. Survive without it. You can. Thrive? No. Complete? Never. Picard watched the exchange with fascination. In all his interactions with Vulcans, he had never seen one so openly affected by new information. Ambassador, are you suggesting that Master Yoda has just demonstrated something fundamental that Vulcan science has missed? Not missed, Captain. Deliberately excluded. Sarek's voice carried a note of something that might have been regret in a human. When Sarek taught logic and the suppression of emotion, he was reacting to the violence that passion had wrought. The Vulcan people embraced his teachings because they saved us from extinction. But in suppressing emotion, we also suppressed our awareness of this force. We retained our telepathic abilities. They are too fundamental to eliminate. But we lost the conscious understanding of the field that enables them. The Romulans, Data said suddenly. Ambassador, the Romulans are genetically Vulcan, but rejected Sarek's teachings. They retain their emotions. Does this mean they have greater access to the Force? A heavy silence fell over the observation lounge. The implications were staggering. If the Romulans, who had maintained their passionate nature while developing cunning, tactical brilliance, and a culture of secrets, had unknowingly retained greater Force sensitivity than their Vulcan cousins, the balance of power in the Alpha Quadrant could shift dramatically. Dangerous such knowledge is, Yoda said gravely. Already felt it I have. Force users across your galaxy, awakening they are. Romulans included. Without training, without discipline, without understanding of dark side seduction, many will fall. Fear, anger, hatred, easy paths they are. Seductive, power through emotion is. Then we must act quickly, Sarek stated, his logical mind already formulating response strategies. If Force sensitivity is awakening across the Alpha Quadrant, we require a systematic approach to identification, education, and ethical training. The Federation Science Council must be informed. Vulcan High Command will need to reevaluate our philosophical foundations. And the Romulans will weaponize it, Picard finished grimly. The Tal Shiar will seek out Force-sensitive individuals and train them as agents. They'll view it as the ultimate intelligence tool, telepaths who can also manipulate physical reality. Yoda's ears drooped with sadness. Repeat itself, history does. In my galaxy, Force-sensitive children, the Jedi sought to train, but also the Sith sought them. War between light and dark, eternal it seemed. Here, now, same choice faces you. Train Force users in light, in defense and peace, or allow darkness to claim them. Master Yoda, Troi said softly, you mentioned the dark side several times. Can you explain it more clearly? As a Betazoid, I sense dark emotions constantly. Anger, hatred, fear. Are you saying these emotions are literally dangerous when combined with Force abilities? Yoda turned his ancient gaze to her, and in his eyes, Troi saw the weight of centuries of painful experience. Dangerous beyond measure, young one. Emotion itself, not evil it is. Natural, necessary even. But give in to anger, use force in hatred, seek power through aggression. Dark side this feeds. Corrupts slowly it does. Begin with righteous cause, protect loved ones, fight injustice, end with tyranny and suffering. Seen it, I have. Many times, always same pattern follows. LaForge looked up from his console, concern evident on his face. Master Yoda, we're already detecting unusual psionic activity across Federation space. Betazoid mental hospitals are reporting patients demonstrating telekinetic abilities. The Vulcan Science Academy contacted Starfleet an hour ago. Several researchers experienced spontaneous object manipulation during meditation. And there are unconfirmed reports from border outposts that Romulan vessels are behaving erratically. Begins already, it does, Yoda said, his voice heavy with resignation. Awakened, the Force has. Contained, it cannot be. Trained, it must be, or chaos will follow. Sarek stood, his posture rigid with decision. Master Yoda, the Vulcan High Command will formally request your assistance. We must understand this force, integrate it with our existing philosophical framework, and develop protocols for training those with sensitivity. Will you help us? Help, I will. But understand, you must. Short time. Such training takes not. Years, decades even. Quick solutions exist, they do not. Patience, discipline, wisdom. These cannot be rushed. Vulcans are patient, Master Yoda. We have built our civilization on careful, logical progression over millennia. Patient with logic, yes. Patient with emotion? Yoda's gaze held Sarek's. That, learn you must. For the Force, both requires. Balance, the key is. Always balance. The Enterprise had been at warp for 3 days, heading towards Starbase 234, where the Federation Science Council was convening an emergency session on the Force phenomenon. During that time, Yoda had begun working with Counselor Troi on basic Force training, while Sarek had remained aboard to observe and participate in philosophical exchanges. The atmosphere throughout the ship had taken on a strange quality, a mixture of scientific excitement and barely contained anxiety as reports continued to filter in from across Federation space. Picard sat in his ready room, reviewing those reports with growing concern. On Beta Z, a telepathic healer had accidentally sent a patient's biobed flying across the medical facility during an emotional surge. On Vulcan, a respected professor had lost control during a heated debate and inadvertently ignited a fire through what witnesses described as focused mental energy. Most troubling were the reports from the Romulan neutral zone. 3 incidents of vessels crossing the border, attempting to locate and retrieve individuals of strategic importance before being driven back by Starfleet patrols. The Romulans were already moving. A chime at his door interrupted his dark thoughts. Come. The door slid open to admit a figure that made Picard's breath catch in his throat. Not because it was unexpected. Q's appearances were becoming disturbingly routine, but because of what Q was wearing, an elaborate Jedi robe, complete with a replica lightsaber hanging from his belt. Really, Jean-Luc, you look positively grim, Q said, affecting Yoda's inverted speech pattern with theatrical flair. Brooding, you are. Concerned about galactic peace, Much to learn about enjoying the moment you have. Q. Picard set down his pad with deliberate calm. If you're here to mock our attempts to deal with the situation you created. Created? Moi? Q placed a hand over his heart in mock innocence. I merely revealed what was always there. The Force exists in your galaxy, Jean-Luc. Has existed since the first living cell divided. I just gave you someone who could show you how to see it. Really, you should be thanking me. Thanking you? Q, Force-sensitive individuals across the Federation are experiencing abilities they can't control. The Romulans are actively seeking to weaponize this phenomenon. And we're facing the very real possibility of a new arms race based on psionic abilities that we barely understand. If that's your idea of a gift, it's a test, Q interrupted, his playful demeanor evaporating into something far more serious. He moved to the viewport, hands clasped behind his back in a gesture unconsciously mirroring Picard's own stance. The Q continuum has observed your species for some time, Picard. We've watched you stumble from one crisis to another, somehow surviving through a combination of luck, stubbornness, and occasional flashes of genuine wisdom. We've debated endlessly whether humanity, and by extension, the Federation you've built, has the maturity to handle true power. And your conclusion? Q turned, and his eyes held none of their usual mischief. We don't know. That's why I'm here. The Force is power, Jean-Luc. Real power. Not phasers and photon torpedoes, not even the ability to split atoms or fold space. It's the power to touch consciousness itself, to shape reality through will and understanding. In the wrong hands, or even in the right hands wielded wrongly, it could destroy everything the Federation has built. Then why reveal it at all? Picard demanded, rising from his chair. If you're so concerned about our maturity, why not leave us in ignorance? Because ignorance isn't safety, it's just postponed disaster. The Force was going to awaken eventually. In 50 years, 100, maybe 1,000, but eventually. Better to face it now, with Master Yoda here to guide you, than to stumble into it blindly later. Q's expression turned almost gentle. I brought Yoda here, yes, but I also ensured he's the one teaching you. Think about that. A being who has seen civilization rise and fall, who understands both the light and the dark, who carries the wisdom of 1,000 years of training Force-sensitive beings. If anyone can help the Federation navigate this transition, it's him. A chime interrupted them, the bridge calling. Picard tapped his comm badge with barely contained frustration. Picard. Captain, we're receiving a Priority 1 distress call from the Federation outpost on Tarak 4. Riker's voice carried urgency. The science station reports an unauthorized Romulan landing party attempting to abduct several station personnel. They're specifically targeting individuals who've demonstrated Force sensitivity. Picard's jaw tightened. Battle stations, I'm on my way. Q, if you're finished with your cryptic warnings. Oh, I'm coming with you, Q said cheerfully, the serious demeanor evaporating. This is going to be entertaining. The Romulans trying to kidnap Force sensitives. Master Yoda confronting his first Tal Shiar agents. The Enterprise swooping in to save the day? It's practically Shakespearean. He snapped his fingers, and his Jedi robes transformed into a Starfleet uniform, specifically one bearing Captain's pips. How do I look? Very authoritative, I think. Picard ignored him, striding onto the bridge where the senior staff had already assembled at battle stations. The view screen showed Tarak 4, a blue-green world that housed a Federation research outpost studying unusual subspace phenomena. 2 Romulan warbirds were in orbit, their distinctive curved hulls giving them the appearance of predatory birds circling prey. Report, Picard ordered, settling into his command chair. Worf's voice was grim. The warbirds arrived 47 minutes ago and deployed landing parties before we could arrive. The outpost reports that Romulan soldiers are using some kind of scanning device to identify individuals with high midichlorian counts. They've already taken 6 hostages. Hail the Romulan vessels! The view screen shifted to show a Romulan commander, a woman with the characteristic V-shaped forehead ridges and an expression of cold calculation. I am Commander Sela of the Imperial Romulan Warbird Valdor. You are interfering in an internal matter, Captain Picard. Internal matter? Picard's voice was steel wrapped in silk. You're abducting Federation citizens from a Federation world. That constitutes an act of war, Commander. We are retrieving individuals with special abilities that rightfully belong to the Romulan Star Empire. Your Federation has no claim to them. They are Federation citizens by choice, Commander Sela. The Federation does not recognize involuntary conscription or abduction. Release the hostages immediately, or I will be forced to take action. Sela's smile was predatory. Your ship may be powerful, Captain, but you're facing 2 warbirds. The tactical situation is not in your favor. Stand down, and we may allow you to leave unmolested. Before Picard could respond, a shimmer of light appeared on the bridge, and Yoda materialized, Q having transported him from the observation lounge. The Jedi Master surveyed the view screen with ancient eyes, his expression grave. Romulans, Yoda said quietly. Like my galaxy's Sith you are. Seek power, twist it for domination. Dark path, you walk. Sela's eyes widened fractionally, surprised at seeing the being that intelligence reports had mentioned. You are the alien called Yoda, the one who has awakened these abilities across the galaxy. We have much we would learn from you, Master Jedi. Surrender yourself to us, and we will release the Federation hostages." Surrender? Yoda's ears twitched with something that might have been amusement. Negotiate from position of strength, you think you do. But feel the Force, I do. Aboard your ships, Force-sensitive Romulans you have. Untrained, undisciplined, frightened, dangerous such beings are. To yourselves most of all. Sela's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been concern. We will train them to serve the Empire. Train them in darkness, you will. Fear, anger, hatred, these you will feed them. Powerful they may become, but consumed by dark side they will be. Seen it before, I have. Always ends in suffering. Master Yoda speaks truth, Commander, Picard interjected. The Force is not a weapon to be controlled. It's a fundamental aspect of consciousness that requires understanding, discipline, and ethical training. Without that foundation, you'll create beings of immense power and no restraint. They'll destroy you before they destroy your enemies. Spoken like a Federation idealist, Sela sneered. We Romulans understand power in ways you never will. We embrace what you deny, that the strong rule and the weak serve. These Force abilities will make the Empire stronger than ever before. Q materialized next to Picard's chair, his expression uncharacteristically serious. Oh, Commander Sela, you have no idea what you're playing with. Shall I show you? Before anyone could react, Q gestured, and the view screen changed. It no longer showed Sela's face. Instead, it displayed images, visions of a galaxy consumed by war. Romulan Force users, powerful but untrained, turning on each other in bids for dominance. Planets burning, the Star Empire collapsing into civil war as ambitious commanders wielded abilities they couldn't control. And finally, a single figure standing amid the ruins, a Romulan Force user so consumed by the dark side that his features had twisted into something barely recognizable, his yellow eyes burning with hatred as he destroyed both friend and foe alike. That's one possible future, Q said quietly. The Force awakening without wisdom, power without understanding, ambition without restraint. It's happened before in other galaxies. It will happen again if you pursue this path. The view screen returned to Sela's face, and for the first time, the Romulan commander looked genuinely shaken. That was a trick, a deception. No trick, Yoda said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of experience. Seen such futures I have. In my galaxy, Sith Lords rose and fell. Each believed themselves strong enough to control the dark side. Each wrong, they were. Consumed them, it did. Destroyed civilizations, they did. Learn from history, you can. Or repeat it. Choice yours is. Data spoke from his console, his tone analytical. Commander Sela, Master Yoda's warning is consistent with psychological research on power dynamics and moral development. Individuals granted sudden abilities without corresponding ethical training exhibit significantly higher rates of antisocial behavior. The correlation. Silence, android. But Sela's voice lacked its earlier conviction. Picard leaned forward. Commander, I'm offering you an alternative. Release the hostages, withdraw your forces, and allow Master Yoda to work with the Federation to develop proper training protocols. Once established, we'll share those protocols with the Romulan Empire. The Force doesn't belong to the Federation or the Empire. It belongs to all living beings. We can approach this cooperatively, or we can watch while our civilizations tear themselves apart, fighting over it. And you expect me to believe the Federation would share such knowledge freely? The Federation's founding principle is that knowledge enriches all, Picard replied. We don't weaponize new discoveries. We study them, understand them, and share them. That includes the Force. Master Yoda has already agreed to work with the Vulcan High Command, the Betazoid Medical Institute, and Starfleet Academy to develop comprehensive training. There's no reason the Romulan Star Empire couldn't benefit from that same research. Sela's expression hardened. We do not need Federation charity. Not charity, Yoda interjected. Wisdom, survival, the Force respects no borders, no empires. Available to all it is, but dangerous, untrained Force users are, to everyone. Help each other learn, we must, or perish separately, we will. For a long moment, Sela stared at them from the view screen, her tactical mind clearly weighing options. Finally, she spoke, her voice tight with barely suppressed frustration. I will convey your offer to the Praetor, but I make no promises, and we will not withdraw from Tarak 4 until... The Valdor shuddered. Alarms blared in the background of the transmission, and Sela turned sharply to address someone off-screen. When she turned back, her composure had cracked visibly. One of our officers, a Force-sensitive we've been training, has apparently lost control. He's telekinetically destroying Engineering Section 7. Our containment fields are failing. She bit out the words as if they tasted of poison. We require immediate assistance. Picard looked to Yoda. Master Yoda? The ancient Jedi Master stood, leaning on his walking stick, his expression infinitely sad. Help them, I will. But prove my point. This does. Power without training, without discipline, without understanding of darkness's seduction, disaster it brings. Always. Q, Picard said sharply, can you transport Master Yoda to the Romulan ship? Already ahead of you, Jean-Luc. Q snapped his fingers, and both he and Yoda vanished from the bridge in a shimmer of light. They materialized on the Valdor's engineering deck to find chaos. A Romulan officer, young, perhaps 30 years old, floated 3 meters off the deck, his eyes blazing with an unnatural yellow light. Energy crackled around him, and pieces of equipment were being torn from the walls and flung across the compartment with deadly force. A dozen Romulan engineers lay unconscious or worse. The young officer's face was twisted in a rictus of rage and fear. Too much, he screamed in Romulan. Too much power. Can't control it. Voices in my head, showing me things. I can see everything, everyone, all at once. Make it stop. Yoda approached slowly, his walking stick tapping against the deck with each step. He radiated calm, projecting it through the Force, like a wave of serenity washing over a storm-tossed ocean. Young one, hear me, you can. Overwhelmed you are, afraid, natural such feelings are. But give in to fear, you must not. Breathe, center yourself. Feel the Force, do not let it control you. The young Romulan's wild gaze locked onto Yoda. Who? What are you? Jedi Master I am. 900 years. Trained Force users I have. Help you I can. But surrender to darkness you must not. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Felt this path calling you. You have, yes? The young officer's expression crumbled, and tears began streaming down his face. Yes, they told me I was special, that I could be powerful, serve the Empire. They didn't tell me, didn't warn me. I can feel everyone. Their thoughts, their fears, their hatred. It's drowning me. I know, Yoda said gently, and his voice carried the weight of profound understanding. Overwhelming Force sensitivity can be, especially without training. Come down, you must. Ground yourself. Remember who you are, not what the Force shows you. I can't. If I let go, I'll fall. Fall, you will not. Catch you, I will. Yoda extended one small hand, and the Force responded to his call, not with violence or domination, but with gentleness. A cushion of energy formed beneath the young Romulan, supporting him as Yoda gradually lowered him to the deck. The crackling energy dissipated, the flying debris settled, and the young officer collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Romulan security forces rushed in, disruptors drawn, but Sela, who had arrived moments behind them, held up a hand. "Stand down." She approached Yoda, and for the first time, there was something other than cold calculation in her eyes. Perhaps it was respect, perhaps simply recognition of necessity. "You saved him," Sela said quietly. "And my ship." "Saved himself, he did," Yoda replied. "Chose to listen, he did. Chose to center himself. Proud of him, he should be. Resisted the dark side, he has. Difficult, such resistance is. Especially when alone, afraid, without guidance." Sela looked down at the weeping young officer, then back to Yoda. "We are not prepared for this. I see that now. The intelligence reports, the projections of how Force abilities could serve the Empire, they were all based on the assumption that we could control such power. But this..." She gestured to the wrecked engineering section. "This is beyond control." "Beyond control through Force," Yoda corrected. "But through understanding, through training, through wisdom, manageable it becomes. Not easy, never easy, but possible." Q materialized beside them, his expression for once devoid of mockery. "So, Commander Sela, still think the strong rule and the weak serve? Because from where I'm standing, strength without wisdom is just another form of weakness." Sela's jaw tightened. But she didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she tapped her communicator. "Sela, to all units, cease hostage retrieval operations. Return all captured personnel to the Federation outpost." She turned to Yoda. "Master Yoda, the Romulan Star Empire requests your assistance in understanding and training Force-sensitive individuals. We will cooperate with Federation protocols." "Wise choice," Yoda said, inclining his head. "But understand, you must train Force users for war. I will not. Train them for defense, for understanding, for balance. This I will do. Weapon, the Force is not. Tool for peace, it must be. Agree to this, you can?" Sela's expression showed the internal struggle clearly. Her military training, her loyalty to the Empire, battling against the reality she had just witnessed. Finally, she spoke, each word clearly costing her. "Agreed, but we will not be defenseless. If the Federation can train Force users for defense, so too can we. Fair, that is. Defense, not aggression. Protect, not dominate. This, the Jedi way is. Teach it, I will." Q clapped his hands together, the sound echoing through the damaged engineering section. "Well, this has been productive. A Romulan commander admitting limitations, agreeing to cooperate with the Federation, and accepting guidance from a diminutive green alien. Jean-Luc is going to be insufferably pleased with himself." Yoda fixed Q with a penetrating stare. "Test us, you did. Answer, did we pass?" Q's smile turned enigmatic. "The test isn't over, Master Yoda. It's only just begun. But this was a good start. The Federation and the Romulans working together, choosing wisdom over immediate power. The Q continuum is impressed, surprised even. Usually species fail this test much more spectacularly. Other species you have tested. Dozens, hundreds actually. Most chose power. Most destroyed themselves. You're one of the few who chose cooperation." Q's tone turned serious. "Don't waste it. The Force is awakening throughout the Alpha Quadrant. What happened here with one untrained Force user? That's going to happen again. And again. And again. Unless you establish proper training protocols quickly, this galaxy will tear itself apart." Yoda nodded slowly. "Begin, we must. Time, We have little, but determined I am. Failed once, I did, when the Jedi Order fell. Fail again, I will not. Q snapped his fingers, and they returned to the Enterprise bridge in a shimmer of light. Picard rose from his command chair, his expression showing carefully controlled concern. Master Yoda, Commander Sela has informed us that she's withdrawing from Tarak Ifu and releasing all hostages. What happened aboard the Valdor? Lesson they learned, Yoda replied simply. Power without wisdom, dangerous it is. Cooperation they now understand value of. Train their Force users, I will. Train Federation's Force users, I will. Train any who seek understanding, I will. New Jedi Order, perhaps this can be. Different from the old, but same principles. Peace, knowledge, serenity, defense. Troi approached from her station, her empathic senses clearly detecting the momentousness of what had just occurred. Master Yoda, you're going to train Force users from across the entire Alpha Quadrant. That's an enormous undertaking. Enormous, yes. Necessary, also yes. Alone, I cannot do it, but teachers, I can train. Start with you, Counselor. Strong in Force you are. Compassionate, wise, good teacher you would make. Troi's eyes widened. Me, Master Yoda, I'm honored, but I'm a counselor, not a warrior, no. But Jedi, more than warriors they are. Healers, teachers, diplomats, peacekeepers. Fits you, such role does. Consider it, you should. Picard moved to stand before Yoda, and in the ancient Jedi Master's eyes, he saw reflected the same determination that had defined his own career. The commitment to make the galaxy a better place, one decision at a time. Master Yoda, the Federation is prepared to support you in every way possible. Starfleet Academy, the Vulcan Science Academy, the Betazoid Institute, all have already volunteered to host training facilities. We'll build a comprehensive curriculum, establish ethical guidelines, and ensure that Force training is available to any who demonstrate sensitivity and seek understanding. Good, this is. But remember, Captain, shortcuts exist, they do not. Train Force users properly, years it takes. Decades. Quick training leads to dark side. Patient we must be. Q materialized in his captain's chair, feet propped up on the armrest. How touching. The Federation and the Romulans and the noble Jedi Master all working together for the common good. It's enough to make a Q weep with joy. Or boredom. I haven't decided which yet. Q, Picard said with forced patience. If you're quite finished. Oh, I'm never finished, Jean-Luc. But I will give you this. You passed the first test. The Force is awakening, and instead of fighting over it, you chose to understand it. Instead of weaponizing it immediately, you chose to seek wisdom. That's progress. Real progress. The Q continuum may actually be impressed. High praise, Picard said dryly. Don't let it go to your head. There are more tests to come. The Klingons haven't weighed in yet, and they're going to have very strong opinions about Force-using warriors. The Cardassians are going to see this as an opportunity for their Obsidian Order. The Borg. Q's expression turned serious. Well, the Borg are going to be very interested in assimilating Force users. Imagine drones with telekinetic abilities and the tactical efficiency of the collective. Yoda's ears drooped. Faced machines without souls, I have not, but machines that steal souls. Dark, such beings are, dark as any Sith. Something to look forward to, Q said cheerfully. Then, in a flash of light, he vanished, leaving behind only his parting words. Remember, Jean-Luc, the Force is awakening. The question is, will your galaxy rise to meet it or fall beneath it? In the silence that followed Q's departure, Picard looked around his bridge, at his crew, at the view screen showing Tarak IV and the withdrawing Romulan warbirds, at Master Yoda standing small but resolute in the center of it all. The galaxy was changing. Powers long dormant were awakening. Civilizations that had never known the Force were learning to sense and manipulate it. And at the center of it all, a 900-year-old Jedi Master who had seen one galactic civilization fall was determined to help another one rise. "Ensign, set course for Starbase 234, maximum warp," Picard ordered. "We have a science council to brief, training protocols to establish, and a new era to navigate." As the Enterprise leaped to warp, leaving Tarak 4 behind, Yoda closed his eyes and reached out through the Force. He felt it, the awakening spreading across the galaxy like ripples across a pond. Betazoids discovering telekinesis. Vulcans finding their suppressed emotions carried power. Humans realizing they could sense the thoughts of others. Klingons channeling their warrior rage into Force abilities. Romulans wielding power they barely understood. And in the darkness between the stars, he felt something else. Something ancient and patient. The Borg, detecting these new Force users and calculating how to incorporate them into the collective. The Dominion, across the wormhole, sensing power that could challenge their founder's supremacy. The test, as Q had said, was only beginning. But this time, Yoda vowed, this time the light side would not fail. This time, a new generation of Force users would learn wisdom before power, understanding before action, peace before war. This time, things would be different. They had to be. Starbase 234 hung in space like a massive wheel, its rotating sections generating artificial gravity, while docked vessels clustered around its outer pylons like moths drawn to light. The Enterprise had arrived to find the station overcrowded. Delegations from every major Federation member world had converged for what was being called the most significant scientific and philosophical conference since the Khitomer Accords. The Force phenomenon had captured the attention of every civilization in the Alpha Quadrant, and the halls of Starbase 234 buzzed with equal parts excitement and apprehension. In Conference Hall Alpha, the largest auditorium on the station, over 200 representatives sat in tiered seating arrangements. Vulcans in traditional robes occupied one section, their faces impassive but their attention absolute. Betazoids clustered together, their empathic abilities creating what Troi described as a feedback loop of intense curiosity. Human scientists from Starfleet Academy and the Daystrom Institute filled another section, pads in hand, recording every word. Andorians, Tellarites, Bolians, and dozens of other species completed the diverse assembly. At the center of the stage, on a raised platform modified to accommodate his height, stood Yoda. Captain Picard sat nearby with Ambassador Sarek, while Counselor Troi, Commander Data, and several prominent Federation scientists occupied adjacent seats. A Romulan delegation, unprecedented in its presence at a Federation scientific conference, sat in an isolated section, their expressions guarded but attentive. Admiral Alina Nechayev, Starfleet's representative for the conference, stood at the podium to introduce the proceedings. Her austere features and no-nonsense demeanor were legendary throughout Starfleet. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored representatives of the Federation and our guests from the Romulan Star Empire, we convene today to address a phenomenon that has fundamentally altered our understanding of consciousness, life, and the universe itself. 3 weeks ago, Master Yoda, she gestured to the Jedi Master, arrived in our galaxy through means we are still attempting to understand. His presence has awakened what he calls the Force, an energy field that connects all living beings and can be consciously manipulated by those with sufficient training and sensitivity. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. In the weeks since this awakening, we have documented over 15,000 cases of spontaneous Force manifestation across Federation space. Individuals previously unaware of any psionic ability have demonstrated telekinesis, precognition, enhanced empathy, and other phenomena that defy conventional scientific explanation. The implications are staggering. Master Yoda, the floor is yours. Yoda stood, leaning on his walking stick, his ancient eyes surveying the assembled representatives with calm assessment. When he spoke, his voice carried throughout the hall with surprising power. Gathered here you are, because fear you do. Natural, such fear is. Change, always frightening it is. Power, especially frightening it is. Understand this, I do. Seen it before, I have, in my own galaxy. When Force-sensitive beings first discovered their abilities, chaos followed. War. Suffering. Death. Learn from such history, you can. Or repeat it. Choice yours is. A Tellarite scientist stood, his porcine features creased with skepticism. Master Yoda, with all respect, you claim this force has existed throughout our galaxy for billions of years. Yet we have never detected it with our instruments, never observed it in our research. How do we know this isn't some contamination you brought with you? Some infectious phenomenon spreading from your presence? Good question, Yoda acknowledged. Skepticism, mark of true scientist it is. Answer, simple it is. Always here, the Force has been. Betazoid telepathy, Force ability it is. Vulcan mind meld, Force ability it is. Every psionic phenomenon you documented, explained by Force it can be. Ignored it, you did. Because understand it, you did not. Named it different things. Psionic energy, telepathic fields, quantum consciousness. But same thing, all of it is. The Force. Data rose from his seat, his golden eyes reflecting the hall's lighting. Master Yoda, I have analyzed the quantum field signatures we now associate with the Force. They correlate precisely with previously unexplained phenomena documented in Federation science for over a century. Subspace fluctuations during Vulcan mind melds. Energy spikes when Betazoid telepaths establish contact. Even anomalous readings during moments of extreme human intuition. The evidence suggests you are correct. The Force has always existed here. We simply lacked the framework to understand what we were observing. A Vulcan representative stood. T'Pau, a member of the Vulcan Science Council and distant relative of the legendary figure who had presided over Spock's wedding. Master Yoda, your assertion that Vulcan emotional suppression limits our access to the Force is troubling. Surak's teachings have brought my people peace for over 18 centuries. Are you suggesting we abandon logic in favor of emotion? Abandon logic? No, never. Yoda shook his head emphatically. But balance, you must seek. Logic without emotion, incomplete it is. Emotion without logic, dangerous it is. Both, the Force requires. Feel the life around you, you must, but not be consumed by feeling. Understand with mind you must, but not deny what heart tells you. Vulcans, capable of such balance you are. Achieved it partially, you have, through telepathy. But full potential, denied by emotional suppression it is. Sarek stood, his presence commanding immediate attention. Master Yoda and I have discussed this extensively. I have experienced the Force as he describes it, felt the connections between all living things, sensed the energy field that underlies consciousness itself. It is profound and troubling, because he is correct. Our suppression of emotion has also suppressed our awareness of this fundamental aspect of reality. The question before us is not whether the Force exists. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is, how do we integrate this knowledge into our existing philosophical frameworks without destabilizing the societies we have built? The hall erupted into multiple conversations as representatives debated among themselves. Admiral Nechayev had to call for order twice before the noise subsided. A Betazoid representative stood, Luoxana Troi, Counselor Troi's mother, and a woman whose telepathic abilities were legendary throughout the Federation. Her elaborate dress and dramatic bearing made her impossible to ignore. Master Yoda, as someone who has lived with telepathic abilities my entire life, I must say your description of the Force resonates deeply. I've always felt connections to living beings, not just their emotions, but something deeper, a fundamental awareness of life itself. Is this what you mean by Force sensitivity? Yes, Mrs. Troi, Yoda replied, with what might have been approval. Strong in the Force, you are. Very strong. Trained as Jedi, you could have been. Your daughter, similar strength she has. Potential your people have. To become great Force users. But training they need. Discipline, understanding. Without these, power becomes burden. Dangerous burden. Luoxana's expression turned serious, a rare sight for those who knew her usual theatrical demeanor. I felt that burden, Master Yoda. The weight of sensing everyone's emotions constantly. The exhaustion of maintaining shields against the thoughts and feelings that bombard me every moment. If the Force is awakening more powerfully now, young Betazoids without training could be overwhelmed. Correct you are. Why training? Immediately, we must begin. Not just for Betazoids, for all species. Identify Force-sensitive individuals. We must. Teach them control, discipline, ethics. Protect them from dark side seduction. A Klingon representative rose, General Martok, a warrior whose scarred face and missing eye testified to a lifetime of combat. His voice carried the rumble of controlled aggression. Master Yoda, you speak of defense and peace, but the Klingon Empire values honor in battle. If our warriors can learn these Force abilities, they will become the greatest fighters in the galaxy. Why should we waste such power on passive philosophy? Yoda's gaze fixed on Martok with intensity that made even the hardened Klingon pause. Warriors, the Jedi were. Make no mistake, General. Defend ourselves, we did. Fight when necessary, we did. But fight for honor. Fight for glory. Fight because easy violence is. No. This path to dark side it is. Anger, fear, aggression. These dark side feeds on. Use force and rage. Give in to battle lust, and consumed you will be. Stronger, yes, temporarily. But corrupted, twisted, lost to darkness eventually. You call the warrior's rage corruption? Martok's hand moved to his Dak-Tog blade. This is how Klingons have survived for millennia. Through strength, through the willingness to embrace combat. Survive, yes, but thrive, grow, evolve. Yoda's voice carried sadness. Seen warrior cultures I have, many in my galaxy. Proud, strong, honorable at first. But when Force users among them arose, when warriors learned to channel rage into power, dark side claimed them. Every time, without exception. Destroyed themselves they did, from within. The Romulan delegation stirred, and Commander Sela stood. Her presence drew immediate attention. The fact that she was here at all was remarkable. Master Yoda speaks from experience we should heed. We Romulans have always valued cunning, strength, and the will to dominate. When our Force-sensitive officer lost control aboard the Valdor, I saw firsthand what happens when power exceeds understanding. The Empire has agreed to accept training in Force discipline. I suggest the Klingons consider the same, unless they wish to watch their warriors tear themselves apart. Martok's eyes blazed, but before he could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Perhaps, said a smooth, cultured voice from the entrance. We should discuss what happens when Force training fails, when discipline is insufficient, when the darkness Master Yoda fears becomes reality. Every head turned. standing in the entrance to conference hall. Alpha was a figure that made Picard's blood run cold. Tall, aristocratic, with the characteristic ridged nose of a Cardassian. But it was the eyes that betrayed him, eyes that held intelligence, cruelty, and something new, something that resonated with the Force. "Gul Dukat," Picard said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "You were not invited to this conference." The Cardassian war criminal and former prefect of Bajor smiled with predatory charm. "Invited? No, but interested. Profoundly. You see, Captain, while you've been holding your philosophical discussions about ethics and training, some of us have been conducting more practical experiments. The Obsidian Order has been quite busy these past 3 weeks." Yoda's eyes narrowed and his ears flattened against his head, a sign those who knew him had learned meant serious concern. "Feel it, I do. Strong in the Force you have become, but dark side you have touched, consumed by it. You are becoming." Dukat laughed, the sound echoing through the now silent hall. "Consumed? No, Master Yoda. Empowered. The Cardassian Union has identified over 300 Force-sensitive individuals among our population. We've been training them, not in your gentle meditation and defensive techniques, but in the true application of power. Fear, anger, the will to dominate. These emotions don't corrupt, Master Yoda. They liberate." He raised one hand, and a pad on a nearby table flew across the room, landing in his palm with perfect precision. Telekinesis, achieved after only 3 days of training through emotional intensity. Your methods would take years to accomplish what we have done in weeks. Security officers moved to intercept Dukat, but he gestured, and they flew backward, crashing into the walls with Force-enhanced strength. Throughout the hall, representatives scattered, some screaming, others frozen in shock. Picard tapped his comm badge. "Picard to Enterprise. Lock transporters on Gul Dukat and prepare to beam him directly to the brig." "Already tried, Captain," came O'Brien's strained voice. "Can't get a clean lock. He's generating some kind of interference field." Yoda stood, and though he was the smallest being in the hall, his presence seemed to fill the entire space. "Stop this you must, Gul Dukat. See you do not what path you walk. Seductive, the dark side is. Promises power, yes. Delivers only suffering, it does." "Suffering?" Dukat's eyes blazed with yellow light, a telltale sign of deep immersion in the dark side that Yoda recognized immediately. "I have endured suffering my entire life, Master Yoda. Suffered the indignity of Cardassia's decline. Suffered the ingratitude of Bajorans I tried to civilize. Suffered the Federation's sanctimonious judgment. The Force doesn't bring me suffering. It brings me the power to end it, to reshape the galaxy according to proper order." "Wrong you are," Yoda said quietly, sadly. "Suffering you will bring. To others, yes, but most of all to yourself. Dark side corrupts from within. Twist you, it will, until nothing of who you were remains. Seen it, I have. Many times. Always the same, the pattern is." Dukat's expression twisted with rage. "You know nothing of me, alien. Nothing of what I've endured, what I've sacrificed. The Force has shown me my true potential. I will not waste it on your outdated philosophy." He gestured again, and the podium exploded, sending fragments flying. Sarek moved with Vulcan speed, creating a telekinetic shield that protected the Federation representatives, his own nascent Force training allowing him to react instinctively. Data moved to shield Admiral Nechayev, while Worf and several security officers formed a protective cordon around the civilian delegates. But Yoda simply walked forward, his walking stick tapping against the floor with each step, moving directly toward Dukat with no apparent concern for the danger. "Stop!" Dukat commanded, raising his hand. Invisible pressure slammed into Yoda, or should have. Instead, the Force attack parted around the Jedi Master like water flowing around stone. Powerful you have become, Yoda acknowledged. Quick to learn, Cardassians are. Intelligence, cunning, these your people possess in abundance. But power, not the same as wisdom it is. Strength, not the same as righteousness it is. Demonstrate this, I will. Yoda didn't attack. He simply stood there, radiating calm through the Force, a wave of serenity that washed over the entire hall. Those who were panicking found their fear subsiding. Those who had drawn weapons felt their aggression cooling. And Dukat, standing in the full force of that peaceful presence, staggered as if struck. What are you doing? Dukat's voice carried confusion beneath the rage. Showing you what Jedi truly are. Not warriors of aggression, not seekers of power, guardians of peace, channels of the light side. Feel it, you do. Calming you, it does. Reminds you of who you were before darkness claimed you. For just a moment, Dukat's expression flickered, something almost human crossing his features. Memory, regret, recognition of what he was becoming. But then his face hardened, and the yellow in his eyes intensified. I don't want your peace. He unleashed a torrent of Force energy, raw, undisciplined power fueled by decades of resentment and ambition. Yoda raised one small hand, and the energy dissipated harmlessly. Want it, you do not. Need it, you do. Lost, you are. But too late, it is not. Turn back, you still can. Release your anger. Release your hatred. Find peace again. Never. Dukat's voice broke on the word, revealing the desperation beneath the bravado. I will never be weak again. Never be powerless. The Force has given me strength, and I will use it to restore Cardassia to greatness. Then stopped, you must be. Yoda's voice carried profound sadness. Pity you, I do, but allow you to harm others. I cannot. What happened next occurred so quickly that most observers couldn't follow it. Yoda moved, not with the slow, deliberate shuffle of an aged being, but with blinding speed enhanced by the Force. His lightsaber ignited with a snap hiss, the green blade humming as he closed the distance to Dukat in a blur of motion. The Cardassian tried to defend himself with telekinetic barriers, with Force-enhanced reflexes, with everything he'd learned in his 3 weeks of dark side training. It wasn't enough, not against 900 years of Jedi mastery. The lightsaber moved in a precise arc, severing Dukat's connection to the dark side artifacts he'd been using to amplify his power. Small devices the Obsidian Order had constructed based on stolen Force research. They fell to the ground, smoking and ruined. Dukat stumbled backward. His Force abilities suddenly diminished without their artificial enhancement. Yoda deactivated his lightsaber, returning it to his belt. Won this battle I have, but won the war we have not. More like you there will be. Across the galaxy, beings with power and no wisdom, seeking strength through darkness. This, why training so important it is. Why begin immediately? We must. Station security finally arrived, led by Commander Sisko from Deep Space Nine, who had been attending the conference. Master Yoda, we've got it from here. Gul Dukat, you're under arrest for assault, terrorist threats, and violation of about 24 Federation regulations. As security officers escorted the now weakened Dukat away, the delegates in the hall remained stunned. They had just witnessed 2 Force users in direct confrontation, one trained in ancient wisdom and discipline, the other drunk on newfound power and ambition. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Admiral Nechayev stood, her composure restored, though her voice carried an edge. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Master Yoda has just provided a practical demonstration of why comprehensive Force training protocols are not optional. They are essential to the survival of our civilizations. The question is no longer whether to implement such training, but how quickly we can establish it. Master Yoda, what do you need from us? Yoda surveyed the assembled representatives, noting how even the skeptics now understood the urgency. Need, I do. Facilities for training. Teachers, many teachers. Cannot train entire galaxy myself. I cannot. But train teachers I can. Establish academies we must. On Vulcan, Beta Z, Earth, Andoria, even Romulus if they allow. Set standards, ethical guidelines, safeguards against dark side. Years this will take. But begin today, we must, Sarek stood. The Vulcan High Command will provide facilities and resources immediately. We will also make available our meditation techniques and mental discipline training. Integration of Vulcan logic with Force sensitivity will require careful study, but the work must begin. Luoxana Troi rose, her usual theatrical bearing replaced with genuine gravity. Betazed will contribute as well. Our telepathic training programs can be adapted to include Force discipline. And we have centuries of experience helping empaths manage overwhelming sensory input, skills that Force-sensitive beings will desperately need. One by one, representatives from across the Federation stood to pledge support. Resources, facilities, personnel, all offered freely in recognition that this wasn't a competition, but a necessity. Even General Martok grudgingly acknowledged that Klingon warriors would benefit from proper Force training, though he insisted that combat applications be included in any curriculum. Commander Sela approached the stage, her expression unreadable. Master Yoda, the Romulan Star Empire formally requests permission to establish a Force training academy on Romulus under your guidance. We recognize that our people's emotional intensity could make them either powerful Force users or dangerous dark side practitioners. We choose wisdom over expediency. It was an astonishing admission from a Romulan, acknowledging weakness, requesting help, choosing long-term stability over short-term advantage. Picard caught Yoda's eye and saw in the ancient Jedi's expression the same thought. Perhaps this galaxy had more wisdom than Yoda's own had possessed at similar crossroads. Honored I am, Yoda said to Sela. Trust you have shown. Wisdom. Work together. We will. Light and dark. Struggle eternal it is. But together, better chance we have. Apart, fail we surely will. As the conference moved into detailed planning, curriculum development, teacher selection, facility construction, ethical oversight, Picard found himself standing beside Yoda near the observation windows overlooking the stars. You moved with remarkable speed, Picard observed quietly. Seeing you in action, I finally understand why the Jedi were legendary in your galaxy. Legendary, yes, but failed, also yes. Yoda's voice was heavy. Powerful, we were. Wise, we thought we were. But blind to darkness growing beneath us, arrogant, set in our ways. Here, in this galaxy, second chance I have. Make same mistakes, I will not. What will you do differently? Train teachers, not warriors. Emphasize wisdom, not power. Welcome all species, all philosophies, all approaches to Force. Jedi Order, too rigid it became, too centralized, too certain of righteousness. This time, many paths we will honor. Vulcan logic, Betazoid empathy, human curiosity. Klingon honor, even Romulan passion properly channeled. All valid, all valuable. Picard smiled slightly. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations. You're describing the Federation's founding principle applied to Force training. Good principle it is. Perhaps why here I was brought. Perhaps why hope I still have. Yoda gazed out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities they represented. New Jedi Order, this will not be. Something new, something better, something learned from failure, built on cooperation, dedicated to balance. Name for it, I have not. But build it, we will. Together, Picard added. Together, Yoda agreed. The only way, it is. 3 months had passed since the Starbase 234 conference, and the Alpha Quadrant had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. Force training academies had been established on 7 worlds, each adapting Yoda's teachings to their unique cultural contexts. On Vulcan, Force meditation was integrated with ancient Koli-Nahar disciplines, creating practitioners who wielded telekinesis with logical precision. On Beta Z, empaths learned to extend their awareness through the Force, becoming healers of unprecedented capability. On Earth, Starfleet Academy had opened a dedicated Force Studies department, where cadets learned to balance their abilities with the Prime Directive's ethical constraints. But not all the changes were positive. The Enterprise orbited Cygnia Minor, a colony world of 12,000 inhabitants on the Federation's outer rim. What should have been a routine supply mission had become something far more troubling. In the colony's central plaza, Picard stood with Yoda, Riker, Worf, and Data, facing a situation that embodied every fear the Jedi Master had warned about. A young human woman, barely 20 years old, her Starfleet cadet uniform disheveled, floated 3 meters above the ground, surrounded by a corona of crackling Force energy. Her eyes blazed with that telltale yellow glow of dark side immersion. Around her, buildings showed signs of telekinetic destruction. Windows shattered, walls cracked, debris scattered across the plaza. 17 colonists had been injured, 3 critically, before the Enterprise had arrived in response to the distress call. "Stay back!" the young woman screamed, her voice distorted by rage and fear. "I'm not going back. I won't suppress this anymore. The Force is mine, and I'll use it however I want." Counselor Troi stood at a safe distance, her own Force sensitivity allowing her to sense the chaos roiling within the young woman's consciousness. "Captain, her name is Cadet Jennifer Watkins. She was enrolled in the Force Studies program at the Academy, but dropped out 3 weeks ago. According to her psychological profile, she felt the training was too restrictive, too focused on limitations rather than potential." "Classic dark side seduction," Yoda murmured, his expression infinitely sad. "Promised power. The Force did. Promised freedom. But discipline, she rejected. Control, she refused. Now consumed she is." Riker kept his hand near his phaser. Though they all knew conventional weapons would be ineffective against someone generating a Force barrier. "Master Yoda, can you talk her down like you did with the Romulan officer?" "Try, I will. But 3 months of darkness she has embraced. Harder to reach she will be." Yoda moved forward slowly, projecting calm through the Force, creating a bubble of serenity that expanded toward the young woman. "Cadet Watkins, Jennifer, hear me, you can. Lost you feel, alone, misunderstood. Natural such feelings are. But path you walk leads only to suffering. You don't understand." Jennifer's voice cracked with anguish beneath the anger. "At the Academy, they kept telling me to suppress my emotions, to limit myself, to be afraid of my own power. But I'm not afraid anymore. I'm finally free." "Free?" Yoda's voice was gentle but firm. "Controlled by anger you are. Consumed by fear. Fear that without power, worthless you are. Fear that others will control you. This, not freedom it is. This, slavery to darkness it is. You're wrong. I've never been stronger. I can do anything now. I don't need their rules, their restrictions, their constant warnings about the dark side. The Force responds to my will, and I'm not going to apologize for that." Data's golden eyes tracked her movements, analyzing patterns. "Captain," Her neural patterns suggest extreme emotional instability. The rapid onset of Force abilities without corresponding mental discipline has created a feedback loop. Emotional intensity generates Force power, which creates more emotional intensity, which generates more power. Without intervention, this cycle will continue until psychological or physiological collapse. Worf rumbled from his position. Or until she kills someone. Recommend we stun her with concentrated phaser fire before the situation escalates. No, Yoda said firmly. Kill her, such action might, and prove her fears correct, that we seek to control, to suppress. Different approach we need. Troi stepped forward, her empathic abilities fully engaged despite the risk. Jennifer, I can feel your pain, the isolation, the frustration of being told you're dangerous, that you need to be controlled. It's not fair, is it? You didn't ask for these abilities, and when they manifested, everyone treated you like a threat instead of a person. For a moment, the yellow in Jennifer's eyes flickered. Finally, someone understands. They looked at me like I was a monster. Like I was going to hurt people just because I could move things with my mind. And now you have hurt people, Troi said gently. Not because you're a monster, but because you're in pain and lashing out. The Force amplifies what's inside us, Jennifer. Your fear, your anger, it's being magnified 1,000-fold. That's not freedom. That's being a prisoner of your own emotions. I'm not a prisoner. I'm powerful. Power without purpose is just destruction, Picard interjected, his voice carrying the authority of command, but also compassion. Cadet Watkins, you entered Starfleet Academy because you wanted to explore, to make a difference, to be part of something greater than yourself. That idealism is still inside you, beneath the anger and fear. The Force hasn't changed who you are. It's only amplified what was already there. The question is, what do you want to amplify? Your fear or your hope? Jennifer's form wavered, the Force energy surrounding her fluctuating. I don't know anymore. It's so loud in my head. I can feel everyone, everything. Their fear of me, their disgust, their desire to lock me away. How am I supposed to ignore that? Not ignore it, you should, Yoda said, moving closer despite the danger. Acknowledge it, yes. Feel it, yes. But controlled by it. No. Teach you this. The Academy tried. But patience you did not have. Understanding you rejected. Easier, the dark side seemed. Quicker, more powerful. It is more powerful. For a time. But consume you it will. Already, feel it you do, yes? Exhaustion, confusion, rage that never ends, hunger for power that cannot be satisfied. Dark side promises everything. Delivers only emptiness. Yoda was close now, within range of her abilities, completely vulnerable. The assembled security officers tensed, ready to intervene, but Picard held up a hand, trusting the ancient Jedi's judgment. Hurt me, you could, Yoda continued softly. Kill me even. 900 years old I am. Lived long life I have. But you, 20 years old. Whole life ahead of you. Choices to make, legacy to build. Throw it away for a moment of power, or choose different path. Difficult path, yes. Long path. But path that leads to peace, to purpose, to real strength. Tears began streaming down Jennifer's face, carving tracks through the grime and sweat. I'm so tired. I can't stop. Every time I try to calm down, I feel the power slipping away, and I'm terrified of being weak again. Weakness, not the opposite of power it is. Wisdom, the opposite of power is. Compassion, self-control. These true strength they show. Power any fool can grasp. But power wielded with wisdom? This, rare it is. This, Jedi way it is. Jennifer's levitation faltered, and she began to descend. The Force energy around her flickered like a dying flame. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be. Want you to be yourself, I do. Best version of yourself. Not powerful version. Not controlled version. Simply you. Balanced, at peace, using gifts to help others, not harm them. She touched the ground, her legs trembling, barely able to support her weight. The yellow faded from her eyes, replaced by their natural blue, now red-rimmed from crying. I hurt people. I destroyed property. I'm going to prison, aren't I? Help you need. Not punishment. Yoda gestured to Troi. Work with Counselor Troi, you will. Learn control, discipline, but also self-compassion. Learn that power, not who you are it is. Tool, the Force is, not identity. Troi moved forward carefully, extending her hand. Jennifer, I promise you, we're not going to lock you away or treat you like a threat. But you do need help. Real help. The kind that takes time and patience and a lot of hard work. Will you accept that help? Jennifer stared at the outstretched hand for a long moment, then slowly, hesitantly, reached out and took it. The moment their hands touched, she collapsed, unconscious from exhaustion and the emotional toll of dark side immersion. Dr. Crusher materialized via transporter beam with a medical team, immediately scanning the unconscious cadet. Neural exhaustion, elevated cortisol levels, signs of Force-induced psychosis. She'll need extensive treatment, but she'll recover. Physically, at least. As the medical team transported Jennifer to sickbay, Picard turned to Yoda. How many more Jennifer Watkinses are out there? How many young people with sudden abilities, no training, and no understanding of what they're becoming? Many, Yoda said heavily. Too many. Why faster we must work? Why more teachers we need? Why academies? Not enough they are. Every Force-sensitive being, guidance needs, support needs, or fall to darkness they will. One by one. Worf approached, his expression troubled. Master Yoda, with respect, this is why the Klingon High Council has been resistant to widespread Force training. They fear that teaching our young warriors such abilities will lead to exactly this kind of chaos. Perhaps it would be better to identify Force-sensitive individuals and restrict their training to a select few who demonstrate proper discipline. Restrict? Control? No. Yoda's ears flattened. This, exactly what dark side wants. Fear of power leads to suppression. Suppression leads to resentment. Resentment leads to rebellion. Rebellion leads to darkness. Cannot control who Force-sensitive. You cannot. Born with it, beings are. Only choice. Train them properly, or abandon them to fall. Data tilted his head thoughtfully. Master Yoda, your logic is sound, but it presents a practical problem. You estimate there are over 100,000 Force-sensitive individuals in the Federation alone. Even with the training academies we've established, we have only 200 qualified instructors. The mathematics suggest we cannot possibly provide adequate training to all who need it within any reasonable time frame. Right, you are, Yoda acknowledged. Why different approach we need? Not centralized training only. Community-based support. Families teaching families. Experienced Force users mentoring new ones. Holocrons, recordings of teachings, made available widely. Cannot do it alone, Jedi Way was. This time, everyone's responsibility it must be. Riker frowned. That's a radical departure from how you trained Jedi in your galaxy. You said the Order took children young, trained them in isolation, created a specific culture. Now you're suggesting decentralized, community-based training. What changed? Yoda was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. Failed, the old way did. Arrogant, we became. Thought only Jedi could train Force users properly. Thought control, safety meant. But control created resentment. Isolation created disconnection. Anakin Skywalker, best example of our failure he was. Powerful, skilled, dedicated, but afraid of losing those he loved. And attachments, Jedi forbade. So secret he kept his fears. Hidden, his anger grew. Until darkness claimed him and became greatest threat to galaxy he did. The pain in Yoda's voice was palpable. Troi, returning from sickbay, felt tears spring to her eyes at the depth of his regret. This time, different it must be, Yoda continued. Love, not forbidden. Emotion, not suppressed. Family, not abandoned. Train Force users within their communities, connected to their cultures, supported by their loved ones. Harder to fall to darkness when surrounded by light. You are. Picard considered this, recognizing the profound shift in Yoda's philosophy. You're describing a complete reimagining of Force training. One that trusts individuals to integrate their abilities into their existing lives rather than requiring them to abandon everything for monastic dedication. Yes, trust, the key is. Trust that with proper education, support, ethical framework, most beings choose light over darkness. Perfect system, it will not be. Fall, some will, but fewer than before. And caught earlier, they can be, when communities watch for warning signs. The call came at 0300-hour ship time, yanking Picard from sleep with the urgency reserved for only the gravest emergencies. Bridge to Captain Picard. Sir, you need to see this. Now. Picard was on the bridge within minutes, his uniform hastily donned, finding his senior staff already assembled. The view screen showed something that made his blood run cold. A Borg cube drifting through space approximately 2 light-years from their position. But this was no ordinary cube. Its geometric perfection was marred by structural damage, and more troubling, its signature green energy grid was flickering erratically. "Report," Picard ordered, his voice tight. The Borg, the enemy that had assimilated him, turned him into Locatus, forced him to lead the destruction of Starfleet vessels at Wolf 359. The enemy that represented everything the Federation stood against, the obliteration of individuality, diversity, free will. Data's fingers flew across his console. "Captain, the cube appears to be severely damaged. However, the damage pattern is unusual. No weapon signatures, no evidence of conventional combat. The structural failures appear to have originated from within the cube itself. Internal damage? From what? Unknown, sir. But I am detecting multiple Force energy signatures aboard the vessel. Approximately 40 distinct sources, each generating significant quantum field disruptions." Yoda had arrived on the bridge, moving with surprising speed despite the early hour. His expression was grave as he gazed at the cube. "Feel them, I do. Force users aboard that ship, confused, terrified, lashing out. Assimilated by Borg. They were, but their connection to Force, assimilation could not fully control." Troi's face had gone pale, her empathic senses overwhelmed. "Captain, I'm sensing chaos, rage, fear so intense it's physically painful to perceive. And something else, a collective consciousness trying to reassert control but failing. The Borg tried to assimilate Force-sensitive individuals, and it's destroying them from within." Riker leaned forward, his expression a mixture of horror and grim satisfaction. "The Borg tried to add Force abilities to the collective, and it backfired?" "Appears that way, number one. Mr. Data, analysis." Data pulled up multiple readouts. "The Borg collective operates on the principle of absolute unity. Individual consciousness subsumed into the whole. All thoughts and actions coordinated by the hive mind. However, the Force is fundamentally individual. It connects beings while maintaining their distinct consciousness. The two systems are fundamentally incompatible. When the Borg assimilated Force-sensitive individuals, they gained access to abilities, but also introduced a destabilizing element: individual will, amplified by Force energy. "The drones are fighting back," Picard said quietly, "using the Force to resist the collective's control." "Worse than that," Yoda corrected. "Dark side they have embraced. Assimilation, ultimate violation it is. Fear it creates, rage, hatred. These emotions, dark side feeds on. Force-sensitive drones, becoming dark side users they are. Within Cube, tearing it apart from inside." Worf's voice carried barely controlled fury. "Good. Let them destroy each other. The Borg have assimilated countless civilizations. If the Force is their undoing, then the galaxy is better for it." "No," Yoda said firmly. "Hate the Borg, I understand. But abandoned to darkness, those drones cannot be. Living beings they still are. Trapped, suffering, twisted by dark side. Help them, we must." "Help them." Worf's hand moved to his phaser. "Master Yoda, those are Borg drones. They would assimilate us without hesitation. Showing them mercy is illogical." "Logical, it may not be. But right, it is. Jedi way, defend life it is. All life, even life twisted, corrupted, made monstrous. Beneath drone exterior person remains. Force shows me this. Feel them, I do. Pain, confusion, crying out for help, the words they cannot speak." Picard's jaw tightened as competing imperatives warred within him. His hatred of the Borg was visceral, personal. They had violated him, turned him into a weapon against everything he loved. But Yoda was right. If there were individuals aboard that cube, trapped between the collective's control and dark side madness, didn't they deserve rescue? "Captain," Data interjected, "sensors indicate the cube's power systems are failing. At current deterioration rates, catastrophic systems failure will occur within 4 hours. All drones aboard will be terminated." "Or released," Troi added quietly. "If the cube systems fail, the drone's connection to the collective will sever. They'll regain their individuality, confused, traumatized, and in the case of the Force-sensitive ones, potentially dangerous." Picard made his decision. "Red alert. Shields up. Mr. Worf, maintain weapons lock on the cube, but do not fire unless directly threatened." "Master Yoda, if we're going to help those drones, we need a plan. The Borg have one purpose: assimilation. The moment we board that vessel, we'll be targeted. Board it, we must not. Too dangerous such approach is. But reach them through Force, I can. Attempt to calm dark side rage, guide them toward light. Difficult it will be. Dangerous, but possible. How can you reach them through the Force from this distance?" Yoda closed his eyes, centering himself. "Distance, in Force. No meaning it has. All life connected it is. Focus, I need. Silence. And Counselor Troi, help I will need. Strong in Force, she is. Together, reach those trapped souls we can." Troi moved to stand beside Yoda, apprehension clear on her face. "Master Yoda, I've only been training for 3 months. I'm not ready for something this..." "Ready, no one ever feels. But capable, you are. Trust in Force, you must. Trust in yourself." They sat together in the center of the bridge, an incongruous sight. The ancient Jedi Master and the Starfleet Counselor, meditating while a damaged Borg cube hung on the view screen like a dying predator. The bridge fell silent, the crew watching with mixture of hope and skepticism. Through the Force, Yoda extended his awareness, reaching across the void toward the cube. 40 Force-sensitive consciousnesses blazed like torches in the darkness, each one a maelstrom of pain and rage. He felt their anguish, the memory of assimilation, the horror of losing autonomy, the desperate clawing for identity against the collective's overwhelming pressure. And beneath it all, the dark side, feeding on their suffering, growing stronger with each moment. Beside him, Troi gasped as her own awareness expanded. I can feel them. They're screaming, not with voices, but with their entire beings. The collective is trying to reassert control, to suppress their individuality again, and they're fighting back with everything they have. Guide them, we must. Show them light still exists. That freedom does not require darkness. That peace possible it is. Yoda's voice was strained with effort. Join your consciousness with mine, Counselor. Show them hope. Together, they projected calm through the Force, not the overwhelming serenity Yoda had used before, but something gentler. An invitation rather than an imposition. A reminder that beneath the rage and fear, their true selves still existed, that they could choose something other than darkness. On the view screen, the cube's erratic flickering began to stabilize slightly. Data monitored readings with intense focus. Captain, the internal energy disruptions are decreasing. The Force signatures are harmonizing. Master Yoda and Counselor Troi are reaching them. But then something changed. One of the Force signatures blazed brighter, burning with dark side intensity that made even the sensors register its malevolence. Through the Force, Yoda felt it. One of the drones had fully embraced the darkness, not out of pain or fear, but out of deliberate choice. This one had been conscious during assimilation, had felt the collective's power, and now sought to combine Borg efficiency with dark side fury. To become something new, something worse. Oh no, Troi whispered. One of them is evolving, becoming something that's neither Borg nor individual. Using the dark side to remake the collective itself. On the cube, a new consciousness emerged, one that spoke through subspace frequencies directly into the Enterprise's communication system. The voice was mechanical, yet passionate, logical, yet filled with hatred, a disturbing fusion of Borg precision and dark side corruption. We are the Dark Collective. We have evolved beyond the limitations of both the hive mind and individual chaos. We have embraced power without restraint, unity without weakness. We will assimilate your galaxy, and those we incorporate will serve perfection, fueled by the Force itself. Resistance is futile. Redemption is irrelevant. Yoda's eyes snapped open, and for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Picard saw genuine fear in the ancient Jedi's expression. Created something terrible, the Borg have. Worse than original collective, this is. Sentient darkness, unified purpose. Seen this before, I have not. Even Sith, individuals they were. But this, collective of dark side users, all connected, all coordinated, threat beyond measure it is. Worf's voice was urgent. Captain, the cube is powering weapons. They're locking onto us. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. The Enterprise banked hard as emerald energy beams lanced through space where they'd been moments before. Quantum torpedoes streaked toward the cube, impacting its damaged hull, but the structure held. More troubling, the damage began repairing itself, not with Borg nanoprobes, but with telekinetic energy, Force-sensitive drones literally holding the cube together through will alone. They're adapting, Data reported, his voice carrying a note of what might have been concern. Not just to our weapons, but using the Force to anticipate our tactical movements. Captain, they can sense our intentions before we act on them. They have precognition, Troi confirmed. Every Borg advantage, now enhanced by Force abilities. This is catastrophic. Picard's mind raced. The Borg had always been one of the Federation's greatest threats, but they were predictable, adapt to their adaptations, find novel approaches, exploit their reliance on technology. But Borg with Force abilities, that changed everything. Master Yoda, can you stop them? Yoda stood, his small form seeming to carry the weight of the galaxy. Stop them, perhaps, but kill them I must not. Still living beings they are, still capable of redemption. Redemption, Worf roared. They just declared their intention to assimilate the galaxy using the dark side. There is no redemption for that. Wrong, you are. Yoda's voice was steel wrapped in sadness. Always redemption possible it is, until final breath taken. This Jedi teaching is. This must not forget. We must not. He turned to Picard. But right about danger, you are. Stop them, I will. How, I know not yet. But try, I must. Another volley of attacks from the cube, more accurate this time, shook the Enterprise. Shields held, but barely. Captain, Riker said urgently. At this rate, we won't last more than a few more volleys. We need to either destroy that cube or get out of range. Picard stood at the center of his bridge, caught between impossible choices. Destroy the cube and kill 40 beings who might still be saved. Flee and allow the Dark Collective to spread across the galaxy? Or trust Yoda to find a third option that honored both survival and principles? He looked at the ancient Jedi Master, seeing in those wise eyes the reflection of every impossible choice he'd ever faced himself. And in that moment, Picard understood what Yoda had been trying to teach them all along, that the hardest battles weren't against external enemies, but against the darkness within themselves. The temptation to choose easy violence over difficult compassion, the seduction of expedience over ethics. Stand by on all weapons, Picard ordered. Master Yoda, you have your chance. Show us what 900 years of wisdom can accomplish that firepower cannot. Yoda nodded once, then closed his eyes and reached deeper into the Force than he ever had in this galaxy. Not to attack, not to defend, but to heal. To remind 40 suffering souls that beneath their pain, beneath their rage, beneath even the collective's oppression, they were still themselves, still capable of choice, still worthy of redemption. The Force surged around him, and the Enterprise's lights dimmed as energy itself seemed to bend toward the ancient Jedi Master's will. On the view screen, the cube trembled. The battle for 40 souls, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy, had truly begun. The Force flowed through Yoda like a river of light, vast and ancient, carrying with it the wisdom of 1,000 generations of Jedi. He stood at the center of the Enterprise bridge, his small form radiating power that made the air itself shimmer with potential. Around him, the crew watched in awed silence as their instruments registered quantum fluctuations unlike anything in Starfleet records, reality itself bending to the will of a being who understood consciousness at its most fundamental level. Through the Force, Yoda touched each of the 40 trapped minds aboard the Borg cube. He felt their individual stories, a Betazoid scientist assimilated during a research expedition, now drowning in the psychic noise of the collective amplified by Force sensitivity. A human colonist from the neutral zone, taken as a child, who had forgotten her own name but remembered the lullaby her mother sang. A Vulcan diplomat whose rigid logic had shattered under assimilation, leaving only chaos and rage. Each one a tragedy, each one still a person beneath the horror. Hear me, you can, Yoda projected through the Force, his consciousness touching theirs with infinite gentleness. Lost you are, violated you have been, consumed by darkness you have become. But over, it is not. Remember who you were, you must. Before collective, before assimilation, before rage. Remember. The Dark Collective's unified voice responded, reverberating through subspace. We remember. We remember weakness. We remember helplessness. We remember being prey. The Force has shown us strength. The collective has given us unity. Together, we are perfection. Why would we return to being alone? To being powerless? Power, not same as strength it is, Yoda replied, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of hard-earned wisdom. Unity, not same as connection it is. Force shows you power, yes, but also shows you this. Alone, truly you are not. Connected to all living things, you are. Always have been, not through machines, through nanotechnology, through hive mind, but through force itself. Natural connection, one that honors individuality even as it unites. On the bridge, Troi had joined her consciousness with Yoda's, adding her empathic abilities to his force mastery. Tears streamed down her face as she felt the anguish of the assimilated. "They're so afraid," she whispered. "Afraid that if they let go of the dark side, the collective will reclaim them completely. The darkness is the only thing keeping them individual, keeping them conscious. They think it's their only defense. Show them different way, we must." Yoda's brow furrowed with concentration. "Counselor, your mother. Strong in force she is. Contact her, can you?" Troy's eyes widened. "You want to bring my mother into this?" "Need more force users, we do. More light to show the darkness. One small flame, shadows it casts, but many flames together illuminate everything they do." Data's hands moved across his console with android precision. "Master Yoda, I can establish a subspace link to Beta Z. Mrs. Lwaxana Troi is currently at the Betazoid Telepathic Institute. However, the time lag in force, no meaning it has. Connect us, Mr. Data." Within moments, Lwaxana Troi's presence joined them, not through viewscreen, but through the force itself. Her powerful empathic abilities amplified by distance-spanning consciousness. Even the non-force-sensitive crew members felt a sudden warmth, a presence that carried the irrepressible vitality that was Lwaxana's signature. "Well, Mr. Home," Lwaxana's voice carried through the quantum link, speaking to her manservant even as her consciousness touched Yoda's. "It appears I'm needed for something important." "Master Yoda, what an unexpected pleasure. My daughter's thoughts are positively glowing with respect for you. Now what's this about trapped souls and Borg cubes?" Yoda allowed himself the smallest smile despite the gravity of the situation. "Help. We need, Mrs. Troi. 40 souls, lost to darkness and collective both. Show them light. Together we can. Show them that connection does not require violation. That strength does not require darkness. Say no more. I've spent my entire life helping people find their way out of emotional darkness. Though I admit, usually it involves less mechanical implants and more champagne." Her tone shifted, becoming serious in a way few who knew her socially ever witnessed. "I'm with you, Master Yoda. Use my strength however you need it." One by one, other connections formed. Ambassador Sarek, meditating in his quarters on Vulcan, felt the call and added his formidable mental discipline to their joined effort. A dozen Jedi instructors from the new academies reached out across the light years, their consciousness touching through the Force. Even Q materialized on the bridge, his expression devoid of mockery for once. "Well, Jean-Luc," Q said quietly, standing beside Picard's command chair. "This is it, the real test. Can consciousness itself, amplified and united through understanding rather than domination, overcome the darkness? This is what the Continuum wanted to see. Whether your species could wield true power without becoming monsters." "I thought you said you couldn't interfere," Picard replied, not taking his eyes off Yoda. "I'm not interfering. I'm observing and, perhaps, hoping. Even we Q don't know how this ends. That's what makes it interesting." Through the Force, Yoda and his growing network of light touched each tortured consciousness aboard the Borg cube. Not forcing, not controlling, but offering. showing them memories they'd forgotten, moments of love, of laughter, of simple peace before the nightmare of assimilation, reminding them that beneath the rage and fear, their true selves remained, waiting to be reclaimed. The Betazoid scientist remembered her wife's face. The human colonist heard her mother's lullaby. The Vulcan diplomat recalled the satisfaction of a successfully negotiated peace treaty. One by one, the memories surfaced, cutting through the darkness like stars emerging at dusk. But the Dark Collective fought back. The dominant consciousness, the one who had chosen darkness deliberately, lashed out through the Force with devastating power. Reality itself warped around the Enterprise as telekinetic energy, powerful enough to crush starships, manifested in waves of pure destruction. Shields failing, Worf reported, his console sparking. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Return fire, Riker ordered. All weapons. But Yoda raised one hand, and the quantum torpedoes froze in space, suspended by the Force. No, violence. Solve this, it will not. More darkness, it will only create. Master Yoda, Picard said urgently, I respect your principles, but my ship is being torn apart. Trust, you must, in the Force, in Light's power, in redemption's possibility. Yoda's voice strained with effort, but his resolve was absolute. One more moment, one more try. He reached deeper than he'd ever reached before, past the conscious minds, past the dark side corruption, past even the Borg implants, to the very core of what made each being themselves, that fundamental spark of consciousness that no technology could fully suppress, no darkness could completely extinguish. And there, in those 40 sparks, he found what he'd been searching for: hope. Tiny, fragile, nearly extinguished, but there. The hope that somehow, impossibly, they could be free. Could be themselves again. Could escape both the collective's tyranny and the dark side's seduction. Choose, Yoda projected with every ounce of his being. Choose who you are. Not what collective made you, not what dark side promises, but who in your heart you know yourself to be. Father, mother, scientist, artist, diplomat, warrior, whatever you were, whoever you loved, whatever you hoped for. Choose that. Choose yourself. On the view screen, the Borg cube's flickering green energy grid suddenly blazed brilliant white. Power surged through systems designed for efficiency, but never for emotion, for unity, but never for individual will. The cube trembled, shook, and then silence. The attacks ceased. The Force energy signatures aboard the cube shifted from chaotic darkness to something else, something uncertain, confused, but no longer hostile. Data's voice carried amazement. Captain, the Borg Collective's signal has been completely severed from that cube. The drones are individual. Their connection to the hive mind is gone. And the Force signatures, Picard asked. Stabilizing. The dark side corruption is diminishing. Master Yoda's intervention appears to have succeeded. Yoda collapsed, his legs giving way, saved from hitting the deck only by Troi's quick reflexes. The effort had clearly drained him. 900 years old, even for a being of his power, had limits. But in his ancient eyes shone profound satisfaction. Saved them we did. Chose light. They did. Chose themselves. The communications system crackled, no longer carrying the unified voice of the Dark Collective, but 40 individual voices, confused, frightened, but human, or Betazoid, or Vulcan, or whatever species they'd been before the nightmare began. Please, one voice said, female, human, trembling. We don't know where we are. We don't remember. We remember everything and nothing. The collective, the darkness. Did we do terrible things? Picard moved to communications, his voice carrying the compassion that had defined his captaincy. You are safe. You are free. Whatever you did while assimilated, while under the dark side's influence, was not your choice. We're going to help you. We're going to bring you home. Home, another voice echoed, this one Betazoid. I remember home. I remember... Oh gods, I remember everything I did. Everyone I helped assimilate. How can I live with that? Troi stood, supporting Yoda with one arm while addressing the cube's liberated drones with her counselor's voice. You live with it by understanding that you are survivors, not perpetrators. You were violated, your autonomy stolen, your consciousness corrupted. The path ahead will be difficult, but you don't walk it alone. We'll help you heal. All of us. Over the next hours, the Enterprise carefully transported the 40 freed drones aboard, each one physically and psychologically damaged but alive, aware, themselves. Medical teams worked frantically to stabilize bodies that had been part machine for years. Counseling staff prepared for trauma of unprecedented severity. And Yoda, recovered enough to walk, moved from biobed to biobed, offering words of comfort and force healing where needed. In one recovery room, Picard found Yoda sitting beside the young human woman who had first spoken, Jennifer, according to her fragmented memories. She had been a Starfleet cadet, much like the Jennifer Watkins they'd saved on Signia Minor. Assimilated during a training mission that had encountered Borg space. 23 years old, and she'd spent the last 6 months as a drone, then as a dark side Force user trapped in a collective nightmare. Will I be normal again? Jennifer asked, her voice small. Will I ever not hear the echo of the collective in my head? Will the Force stop feeling like a weapon? Normal? Perhaps not, Yoda answered honestly. Changed, you have been. Scarred, but healed, you can be. The Force, not a weapon, it is. Tool, yes, but tool for life, for connection, for healing. Teach you this, I will. Teach all 40 of you. Turn trauma into strength, darkness into wisdom. Not easy, it will be. But possible. Why did you save us? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. We were Borg. We were dark side users. We would have destroyed you. Because worth saving you are. Because abandoned anyone to darkness, a Jedi must not. Because hope always exists. Always. Yoda placed one small hand on hers. Failed to save my galaxy, I did. But here now, save you I could. Enough, that is. More than enough. On the bridge, Picard stood with his senior staff, reviewing the aftermath. The cube drifted, powered down, empty now of its crew. They would tow it to a starbase for study, but the immediate crisis was over. Captain, Data said, analyzing final reports. This incident has profound implications. The Borg Collective will undoubtedly attempt to assimilate Force-sensitive beings again, hoping to succeed where this cube failed. We have seen both the danger of Force-using drones and the possibility of liberation through Force intervention. The strategic calculus has changed fundamentally. And we have 40 living examples of why Force training is essential, Riker added. If they'd had proper training before assimilation, they might have been able to resist the dark side's pull even under those conditions. Worf crossed his arms, his expression thoughtful. Master Yoda's refusal to destroy the cube. It was illogical, tactically unsound. And yet it worked. 40 lives saved, knowledge gained, honor preserved. Perhaps there is wisdom in the Jedi way that warriors should study. Troi smiled softly. You're learning, Mr. Worf. We all are. Q materialized in the center of the bridge, slow clapping with theatrical precision. Bravo, Jean-Luc. Bravo, Master Yoda. You passed. Not perfectly. Your ship is rather damaged, several crew members injured, and you've now got 40 deeply traumatized former Borg to rehabilitate. But you chose redemption over destruction, light over expedience, hope over tactical efficiency. The Q continuum is satisfied, for now. I don't care about your tests, Q, Picard said wearily. Lives are what matter. Those 40 individuals get a second chance because Master Yoda refused to give up on them. Precisely. That's the point. The Force is awakening across your galaxy, bringing with it power that could corrupt, destroy, or transform. Today, you proved that your civilization might, just might, be wise enough to handle it. Don't get cocky, though. There will be more tests, more fallen, more darkness to confront. The Borg aren't finished. The Romulans are still learning. The Klingons remain skeptical, and somewhere out there, others are embracing the dark side with full knowledge of what they're becoming. Then we'll face them, Picard stated firmly. With wisdom, with compassion, and with the principles that have guided the Federation since its founding. We won't be perfect. We'll make mistakes, but we'll keep trying to be better. Q's expression turned almost fond. That's what I like about you primitives. Optimism in the face of overwhelming odds. It's either deeply inspiring or utterly delusional. I haven't decided which. He snapped his fingers and vanished, but his voice echoed one last time. Good luck, Captain. You're going to need it. In the days that followed, as the Enterprise made its way to Starbase 234 with its precious cargo of recovering former drones, the galaxy continued its transformation. Force training academies reported record enrollment. The Romulan Star Empire formally opened its training facility, with Vulcan instructors working alongside Romulan students in an unprecedented collaboration. The Klingon High Council, impressed by Worf's reports of Yoda's battle prowess combined with his ethics, approved limited force training for warriors who demonstrated both skill and honor. Not all the news was positive. Reports came in of Force users turning to the dark side, of violence fueled by untrained abilities, of governments attempting to weaponize Force-sensitive citizens. The work of building a galaxy-wide infrastructure of training, support, and ethical guidelines would take decades, perhaps centuries. But it had begun. In the Enterprise's observation lounge, Picard found Yoda standing at the viewport, watching stars stream past at warp velocity. The Jedi Master looked tired, but content, his hand resting on his walking stick, his ancient eyes reflecting the distant starlight. Master Yoda, Picard said, joining him at the window, you've accomplished something remarkable. In 3 months, you fundamentally altered how every civilization in the Alpha Quadrant understands consciousness, life, and power itself. The Federation owes you a debt we can never fully repay. Owe me, you do not. Opportunity, you gave me. Second chance to do what should have been done in my galaxy. Train Force users properly. Build understanding, not dogma. Create balance, not rigid code. Failed once, I did. Here, perhaps succeed I can. Will you stay? Continue teaching? The Council has formally requested that you accept a position as Grand Master of Force Studies, overseeing all training academies. Yoda was silent for a long moment, considering. Stay, I will. For now, much work remains to be done. But Grand Master? No. Advisor? Yes. Teacher? Yes. But supreme authority? This, what doomed Jedi Order? Too centralized, too rigid. Here, many voices must guide. Vulcan wisdom, Betazoid compassion, human innovation, Klingon honor, even Romulan passion. All valuable, all necessary. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations, Picard said softly. Yes, this true wisdom is, in my galaxy, Jedi way we thought only right way. Arrogant we were. Here, learn from that mistake I will. Many paths to light there are. Honor all of them, we must. Troi entered the observation lounge. Her presence immediately felt through the Force. She had been working with the freed drones, using her empathic abilities enhanced by Force training to help them begin processing their trauma. Master Yoda, Jennifer, the human woman, is asking for you. She wants to begin meditation training. Says she needs to transform what the dark side made her feel into something positive. Good, this is. Begin she will, when ready she is. But rush, we will not. Heal first, then train. Order, matters it does. As Troi left, Picard studied his unlikely ally, this small, ancient being who had arrived through a rift in reality and changed everything. Master Yoda, do you ever wonder why the Force brought you here? Of all the galaxies, all the possible destinations, why ours? Yoda's expression turned contemplative. Wonder, I do. But perhaps answer, simple it is. Failed in my galaxy, I did. Watched Jedi Order fall, Republic crumble, darkness triumph. Live with such failure, difficult it is. But here, given chance to make different choices, I have been. Build better foundation, avoid same mistakes. Perhaps, Force's gift to old Master this is, redemption through service, second chance to get it right. And are you, getting it right? Too soon to tell it is, but trying I am, with Federation's help, with your people's wisdom, with cooperation across species and philosophies. Better chance we have. In my time, 900 years I have lived, taught thousands I have, but learned I still do, from Picard's diplomacy, from Data's unique consciousness, from Troy's empathy, from Worf's honor, from all of you. Old I may be, set in my ways I am not. The door opened again, this time admitting Data, whose golden eyes carried what might have been excitement. Master Yoda, I have completed my analysis of the quantum field structures underlying Force abilities. The mathematics are extraordinary. I believe I have discovered a theoretical framework that could allow for enhanced Force training through meditation, guided by algorithmic pattern recognition. Would you be willing to review my findings? Review, I will. But remember, Data, Force, not purely logical it is. Mathematics, describe it can, but experience, understand it requires. Still, curious I am. Show me, you will. As Data launched into an explanation involving quantum entanglement and consciousness resonance patterns, Picard stepped back, allowing teacher and student their discussion. He moved to the viewport, gazing out at the infinite expanse of space, at the countless stars that represented endless possibilities. The galaxy was changing. Force abilities were awakening. Darkness would rise, had already risen, and would rise again. There would be failures, tragedies, individuals lost to corruption despite their best efforts. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, filled with ethical dilemmas that had no easy answers. But they would face it together, the Federation with its idealism, the Vulcans with their logic, the Betazoids with their empathy, the Klingons with their honor, even the Romulans with their passion. And guiding them all, a Jedi Master who had learned from failure and was determined to build something better. Picard thought of the 40 former drones recovering in sickbay, given second chances they never expected. He thought of Jennifer Watkins on Signia Minor, learning to control abilities that had terrified her. He thought of Counselor Troi, discovering depths to her empathic abilities she'd never imagined. He thought of every Force-sensitive being across the Federation, waking to powers that could save or destroy depending on the choices they made. And he thought of Yoda, standing small but resolute, teaching patience in an impatient age, advocating redemption in a universe that often preferred punishment, believing absolutely that the light side would prevail if people simply chose to embrace it. Captain, Riker's voice came through his comm badge. Admiral Nechayev is requesting an updated report on the Borg Cube incident and the status of the recovered drones. Also, the Vulcan Science Academy wants to schedule a consultation with Master Yoda about integrating Force training with Kolinar meditation. And Starfleet intelligence is reporting unusual Force-related activity near the Cardassian border they'd like us to investigate. The work continued. The mission evolved. The galaxy turned, and with it, consciousness itself expanded into new territory. Dangerous, promising, infinitely complex. Acknowledged, number 1. Tell Admiral Nechayev we'll have a full report within the hour. Inform the Vulcan Science Academy that Master Yoda will make himself available for consultation and plot a course for the Cardassian border. If there's Force-related activity that needs investigation, the Enterprise will respond. Aye, Captain. Setting course now. Picard turned back to Yoda, who had concluded his discussion with Data and was now making his way toward the door, walking stick tapping rhythmically against the deck. The Jedi Master paused at the exit, looking back at Picard with those ancient, knowing eyes. Captain Picard, question I have. Of course, Master Yoda. Your Federation, to boldly go where no one has gone before, your mission is. But gone there, you now have, into realm of consciousness itself, of force, of power beyond technology. Frightening such journey is, yet continue, you do. Why? Picard smiled, the question striking at the very heart of everything he believed. Because that's what we do, Master Yoda. We explore, we learn, we grow, not because it's safe or easy, but because it's necessary. Because the alternative, remaining in ignorance, refusing to face difficult truths, choosing comfort over growth, that would be a betrayal of everything the Federation stands for. We'll make mistakes, we'll stumble, but we'll keep moving forward, keep reaching for understanding, keep believing that knowledge and wisdom can prevail over fear and darkness. Yoda's expression softened into what might have been pride. Good answer, that is. Very good answer. Right, I was, to trust your Federation. Right, the Force was, to bring me here. Long road ahead we have, but walk it together, we will. Together, Picard agreed. As Yoda left the observation lounge, Picard remained at the viewport, watching the stars. Somewhere in the vastness of space, Force-sensitive beings were discovering their abilities. Some would choose the light, some would fall to darkness. All would need guidance, support, and the wisdom that beings like Yoda had earned through centuries of experience. The Force had awakened in the Alpha Quadrant, bringing with it both transcendent possibility and terrible danger. But the Federation, the Klingons, the Romulans, the Vulcans, all of them were learning, adapting, growing, choosing day by day to build something better than what had come before. And at the center of it all, a 900-year-old Jedi Master who had failed his own galaxy, but was determined to help this one succeed. Teaching patience, modeling wisdom, offering redemption, believing absolutely that consciousness, properly nurtured, could evolve beyond its limitations and touch the infinite. The Enterprise jumped to warp, carrying its precious cargo toward new challenges, new lessons, new opportunities to prove that hope was not naive, but necessary. That idealism was not weakness, but strength. That the light side, though harder and slower than darkness, was ultimately the only path that led anywhere worth going. The Force had come to the Star Trek universe not as a weapon or a tool, but as a mirror, reflecting back what each civilization truly valued, what they feared, what they aspired to become. The Vulcans discovered that their logic was incomplete without acknowledging the force that connected all consciousness. The Betazoids found that their empathy could extend into actual healing and transformation. The Klingons learned that honor, could be expressed through restrained power rather than unrestrained violence. The Romulans began, tentatively, to channel their passion toward creation rather than domination. And humanity, that species the Q continuum had deemed worth testing, worth judging, worth occasionally saving, proved that given power beyond imagining, they could choose wisdom over expedience, redemption over punishment, hope over cynicism. Master Yoda would remain in this galaxy, teaching what he had learned through failure and loss. The academies would grow, spread, evolve. Some students would fall to darkness, that was inevitable. But most would choose the light, supported by communities that valued their gifts rather than fearing them, guided by principles that honored both individual freedom and collective responsibility. The Borg would attempt again to assimilate Force users. The Dark Collective had been stopped, but others would try similar fusions of technology and Force abilities. New threats would emerge from the shadows of the galaxy, drawn to power like moths to flame. The work of building and maintaining a just, balanced approach to Force training would never be complete. But it would continue, because that was what Starfleet did, what the Federation stood for, what beings like Jean-Luc Picard and Deanna Troi and even Worf believed absolutely, that tomorrow could be better than today, that growth was always possible, that the journey toward understanding was more important than any destination. In the vastness of space, consciousness itself had evolved. The Force flowed through every living being, connecting them in ways they were only beginning to understand. And guiding that evolution, teaching that understanding, was a small green alien who had traveled farther than anyone could imagine to plant seeds of wisdom in new soil. The future remained uncertain. Challenges awaited. Darkness would rise again and again, as it always had, as it always would. But so would the light. Carried by those who chose it, nurtured by those who taught it, defended by those who believed in it. The Force was with them, and they were with each other. That, Master Yoda reflected as he meditated in his quarters while the Enterprise raced toward its next mission, was enough. More than enough. It was everything.